Chapter 10-11. Tan Xiu's expression shifted and he asked, "What happened?" "You're a member of our department, so it's not a big deal to tell you." Duanmu Lin forced a smile and said, "But this matter must be kept a secret. 2 core members of the Fan family showed inhuman power and killed more than a dozen intelligence operatives who were monitoring them before escaping. We've investigated the scene of the massacre and found that the killing method was very strange." Tan Xiu's expression slightly changed and he said, "You should have photos of the murder scene here, right? Let me have a look." Duanmu Lin pushed the folder on the table in front of him to Tan Xiu and let Tan Xiu grab it. Then, he said, "Shouldn't you give me an explanation about what happened yesterday?" While opening the folder and looking at the photos, Tan Xiu said, "I just arrived at the imperial capital yesterday and happened to encounter that incident, so I acted. However, I wasn't the one who crippled those murderers, but several of my men. You also know that it would be very troublesome if my identity was exposed in that situation." Duanmu Lin finally let out a smile and nodded. "I knew it was your men who did it, else it would be impossible for them to cripple those murderers so silently. Those murderers of the Fan family have been secretly detained in the prison of our Special Abilities Bureau's HQ. Unfortunately, there's no way to interrogate them for any useful information." "Are they crazy?" asked Tan Xiu. "How do you know?" Duanmu Lin stared blankly and asked with a puzzled expression. "Did your men make them crazy?" Tan Xiu shook his head and said, "It's not my men. They had already lost their minds before they committed the murder. Although I happened to encounter them yesterday, I sensed corpse energy from them. It shows that they were affected by corpse energy and committed such a bloody act. I'm even more certain about their situation after seeing these photos." The photos were several tens of meters long. It was a photo of the murder scene where 2 members of the Fan family killed the intelligence operatives last night. The deceased in the photo had wounds left by sharp claws and teeth. If they were not bitten by wild beasts, then it could only be done by humans under the influence of corpse energy. These people were also known as half-corpses. Duanmu Lin's eyes flickered. He looked deeply at Tan Xiu and asked, "Do you have any way of finding the 2 members of the Fan family who escaped?" Tan Xiu said, "I need the blood of the Fan family, and preferably fresh blood that has just been taken from their clan." "Come with me to the Special Abilities Bureau's prison," asked Duanmu Lin. Tan Xiu nodded with a smile and said, "Let's eat first and then we'll go there. I'm a member of the Special Abilities Bureau, but I haven't been to the headquarters in the imperial capital yet. It's really inexcusable. By the way, I need to borrow something from you." Duanmu Lin asked, "What do you want to borrow?" "Subaquatic corvette," said Tan Xiu. "Why do you want to borrow the subaquatic corvette?" asked Duanmu Lin with furrowed brows. "I had a conflict with some foreign forces and was plotted against by them," said Tan Xiu helplessly. "That's why my people and those foreign cultivation forces fought in the Pacific Ocean. The subaquatic corvette can help me dispatch people and also be used to shoot the enemy." Duanmu Lin furrowed his brows and asked, "You mean those foreign cultivation forces? Who are they?" "There are many of them." Tan Xiu forced a smile and said, "They are the top 3 forces in the world. I'm afraid we'll have a fight with them, as well as some other forces. In short, the enemy this time is very strong. Also, the main enemy is the Celestial Wizard clan. Senior Duanmu, you should have heard of the Celestial Wizard clan, right?" Duanmu Lin's body shook and he solemnly nodded. "Not only have I heard of them, but I've also fought with them. Unfortunately, the final result of that dispute was that our Special Abilities Bureau lost some people, and it could be said that we suffered a setback. Tan Xiu, the Celestial Wizard clan possesses magical witchcraft arts. Their means are mysterious and extremely powerful. Are you their match?" "I'm sure I can wipe out the entire Celestial Wizard clan if it's only them," said Tan Xiu. "But there are more cultivation forces involved now, especially the top 3 forces in the world. It's really hard to say who will win or lose. This is also the reason why I want to borrow the subaquatic corvette from you." Duanmu Lin pondered for a moment and asked, "Can you guarantee the safety of the subaquatic corvette?" "You must know that the subaquatic corvette is a technology of an advanced civilization. Once it falls into the hands of other countries, It will pose a huge threat to our country in the future. I can guarantee that. Tan Xiu nodded. If so, then I'll ask my superiors for a transfer. Duan Mulin nodded. But I can't guarantee that they will agree to it. Then tell your superiors that I'll make a deal with the military if they agree to lend me the subaquatic corvette, said Tan Xiu. It's a brand new technological product that will play a huge role once it's applied to the military. Duan Mulin's spirit shook and he hurriedly asked, "Can you tell me the specifics about the product?" "I can only say that it's a flight product." Tan Xiu mysteriously smiled. A flight product? A solemn look appeared on Duan Mulin's face. He got up and said, "I'll tell the bureau to prepare a meal, so let's not waste time here. Whether it's tracking the traces of the Fan family or borrowing the subaquatic corvette, we must hurry up." Upon hearing this, Tan Xiu could only follow Duan Mulin and leave. However, just as they left the restaurant's entrance, Aquababe hurriedly came down from an RV not far away and ran to Duan Mulin and Tan Xiu. She nodded to Tan Xiu and hurriedly said, "There's a situation, Chief." "What is it?" asked Duan Mulin. Aquababe glanced at Tan Xiu and wanted to say something but hesitated. "Tan Xiu is a member of our Special Abilities Bureau, so there's no need to hide it from him," said Duan Mulin. "Tell me, what's the situation?" "I just received news that 2 escaped members of the Fan family have appeared in Liangong City," said Aquababe immediately after hearing it. "The driver of the taxi they took has been killed and his body was found on the desolate seaside. The taxi was also there. However, through our investigation, we discovered that there is another group of people chasing after them." Duan Mulin's expression changed and he hurriedly said, "How is that possible? The state has given us the task of hunting them, so it's impossible for other forces to get involved. Could it be that the other group of people are enemies of the Fan family?" According to the surveillance footage, there are 3 people in total. One is an old man, and the other 2 are a middle-aged man and a woman. Aquababe shook her head and said, "I've asked the Bureau's intelligence personnel to check the database, but they couldn't find any information about them. Hence, the intelligence personnel inferred that they are not Chinese." "Can you find their traces?" asked Duan Mulin. "For the time being, the 2 Fan family members are nowhere to be found, but the 3 mysterious people are still within our monitoring range," said Aquababe. "We may be able to see them if we rush to Liangong City as soon as possible. What do you think?" Duan Mulin looked at Tan Xiu and asked. "Let's send someone to bring a member of the Fan family to Liangong City," said Tan Xiu. "We'll rush there now. It's naturally good if we can find those people directly. But if we can't, we still need the blood of the Fan family." "Let's do that." Duan Mulin nodded. "Aquababe, go find a member of the Fan family and bring him to Liangong City." Liangong City, the southernmost city of the 3 northern provinces, had developed very fast due to its coastal location and had become the most prosperous metropolis in the 3 northern provinces. North Village Fishery. Surrounded by mountains, the scenery was picturesque. The lakeshore was connected to each other, sparkling under the sunlight. Fluent English was heard from a fishing boat. "Master, according to the tracking disc, the direction the 2 half-ghouls fled should be Lashanku. Shall we go after them now?" A middle-aged man with disheveled blonde hair and black sunglasses looked at the old man sitting in front of him and asked. The old man slowly shook his head and said, "They hid the corpse bottles here, which means they'll sneak back. If they want to become powerful half-ghouls, they need the corpse energy in the corpse bottles. They'll definitely come back here within 3 days." The blonde middle-aged man frowned and said, "But what if they have more corpse bottles? As for the corpse bottle they hid here, could it be that they purposely left it to confuse us?" A cold light flashed in the old man's eyes as he nodded and said, "What you said makes sense. However, we don't know much about China's cities, and we're much worse compared to those 2 half-ghouls. If we follow the tracking disc's guidance, they'll easily get rid of us and follow behind them. Don't worry. Since their aura has been locked by the disc, we'll be able to determine their position as long as they're no more than 300 kilometers away from us within 3 days. But we'll lose their tracks if they flee more than 300 kilometers away," said the blonde middle-aged man. "It won't be easy to find them at that time." The old man sneered. Since we've determined their direction of escape, we'll immediately track them in the direction of Lashanku once the tracking disc stops. With our speed, it'll be easy for us to stay within 300 kilometers from them. A figure flickered lightning fast and instantly rushed into the fishing boat from the shore. It was a middle-aged woman in black leather with a murderous look on her face. She said in a deep voice, "Some people are monitoring us. They should be the Huaxia officials." The old man's expression shifted and he immediately sneered, "We found those two half-ghouls. If the Huaxia officials want to compete with us for the spoils of war, we don't need to be polite with them. Those two half-ghouls can be sold for a very high price on the black market. We bounty hunters can't give up such a good opportunity." Chapter 10-12. Bounty hunters were a legendary class of people who possessed mysterious and unfathomable abilities. They hovered on the edge of life and death while hunting their prey. Any evil species in the world was their target, including bloodkin, beastmen, zombies, and fierce beasts. Killing was their basic means of livelihood. This was their basic way of making a living. Only by killing their prey could they sell them on the black market and get what they wanted. The only rule of these bounty hunters was that they must never kill ordinary people. "What should we do now, master?" asked a slender middle-aged woman wearing black sunglasses in a low voice. "I once fought with those Chinese ability users. They are a bunch of weaklings." The old man coldly snorted. "We won't bother with them if they don't provoke us and let us catch our prey and leave. But if they get in our way, we'll kill them without mercy." "This is China, master," said the middle-aged woman in a low voice. "I'm afraid we'll attract a lot of trouble if we rashly kill their people. No matter how powerful a lion is, it can't withstand the bite of a pack of wolves." The old man pondered for a moment and nodded. "What you said makes sense. But I haven't fully recovered from my injuries. Continuing to chase those two half-ghouls will affect my healing. All right, go find those people who are monitoring us nearby. I want to see their leader." The middle-aged woman complied and was about to leave the fishing boat's cabin. Suddenly, the old man's expression shifted and he floated out and appeared on the fishing boat's deck. "They're here." A solemn look appeared in the old man's eyes. He believed himself to be very powerful, but that was only against some weaklings in China's Special Abilities Bureau. He couldn't guarantee victory against the powerful Duanmu Lin, the Bureau's director. Not to mention that he had yet to fully recover from his injuries. Half a minute later, Duanmu Lin came to the shore with more than a dozen experts from the Special Abilities Bureau. Tan Xiao stood beside him and observed the old man with his hands behind his back. He had learned from Duanmu Lin on the way here that these three people were bounty hunters. "We meet again, old Zhong," Duanmu Lin said with a faint smile on his face. "I didn't expect that you're still alive after more than a decade, Duanmu Lin." The old man frowned. "You're surrounded by people from your Special Abilities Bureau, aren't you? All of them look like ugly melons and crack dates. They don't have much ability." Duanmu Lin said with a smile, "You're still alive, so how can I bear to die? As for whether the people of my Special Abilities Bureau are ugly or not, you don't need to comment on that, do you? The two children you saved back then have already grown up. It seems that they have received your teachings, right? Why don't you let these repulsive people of mine test their standards?" "Duanmu Lin, this may be your Huaxia's territory, but you know very well that we bounty hunters will always appear wherever there's a mutant that needs to be killed. There's no such prohibition in the international treaty against us," said the old man indifferently. "Besides, we don't want to be enemies with your Special Abilities Bureau. We're just hunting down our sinful prey." "You're right." Duanmu Lin nodded and said, "It's not that I don't welcome you to our country. However, your prey this time is related to a major event in our Huaxia country. So, I hope you can stop and let us clean up the mess ourselves." The old man said coldly, "Do you think it's possible? We killed more than a dozen half-ghouls abroad to figure out the prey's information, and I was injured because of it. Our hard work for several months will be in vain if we just give up like this." Duanmu Lin fell into silence. He was well aware of the character of bounty hunters. The old man in front of him was even more paranoid. He would never give up the prey that was about to fall into his hands, even if the situation he was about to face was extremely dangerous. Tan Xiu paced half a step forward and looked at the old man, saying, I want to know the price of those 2 half-ghouls. We can cooperate if the price is cheap. The old man raised his brows and suddenly sneered. I didn't expect that your Special Abilities Bureau's people would be so unruly, Duanmu Lin. Since when someone can make decisions for you, huh? Or are you going to retire and give up your position as the Special Abilities Bureau's director to this brat? Duanmu Lin turned to look at Tan Xiu, shook his head and smilingly said, Old Zhong, if this brat is willing to take over the position of the Special Abilities Bureau's director, I'll immediately give it to him. I'm even willing to be a lowly soldier under him. What? The old man's expression changed, and he looked at Duanmu Lin and Tan Xiu in disbelief. He knew Duanmu Lin's character. This guy was loyal to the country and even dedicated everything he had to Huaxia. He also cared about the position of the Special Abilities Bureau's director very much, so how come he was willing to give it up now? A smile outlined on the corner of Tan Xiu's mouth as he lightly smiled and said, I have no interest in the position of the Special Abilities Bureau's director. Senior Zhong, please don't sow dissension between us. Just tell me the price of those 2 half-ghouls in the black market. The old man shot a deep look at Tan Xiu. Then he stretched out a finger and said, $10 million. Tan Xiu made an okay gesture and lightly smiled. You must be planning to sell those 2 half-ghouls on the black market, so you might as well sell them to us. Of course, we can also help you find the whereabouts of those 2 half-ghouls. We can even join forces to kill them. The old man narrowed his eyes. He was very interested and even satisfied with the other party's proposal. More importantly, he wasn't afraid that the Special Abilities Bureau would renege on the deal. However, he was very interested in Tan Xiu's identity at the moment. What's your name, brat? Tan Xiu, replied Tan Xiu with a smile. You're very good. The old man nodded and said, This old man likes young talents like you very much. I agree to this deal, but you need me to recuperate first. Tan Xiu flipped his hand and took out a jade bottle. Then he looked at the old man and said, Senior Zhong, you bounty hunters are in the business of licking blood from the edge, aren't you? Won't it have a great impact on you if you're seriously injured? I have some medicinal pills here. I wonder if you need them? We can discuss the price if you need them. The old man said with a strange expression, Medicinal pills? A medicinal pill that can heal injuries? You're not an ability user? You're a cultivator from China, right? And a cultivator who can refine medicinal pills? Tan Xiu didn't conceal it and smilingly said, That's right. I'm a cultivator who can refine medicinal pills. Are you willing to do this business? I need to inspect the goods first, said the old man. If the medicinal pills you refine really have a strong healing effect, I'll buy them. But if they don't have any effect, you don't need to mention it again. Tan Xiu opened the jade bottle and took out a holy healing pill from it. It instantly shot to the old man and floated in front of him. He then said with a smile, A holy healing pill is worth $20 million. If you want to test it, you'll have to pay me $20 million if the effect is good. I won't take a penny if the effect is bad. The old man angrily shouted, Isn't your asking price a bit too much? $20 million? Why don't you just rob a bank? The smile on Tan Xiu's face receded and his expression turned a bit cold. Then he indifferently said, Serious injuries will affect one's combat power in the battlefield, thus leading to one's death. But if you take the holy healing pill I refined, you'll be able to recover quickly, which is equal to having half a life. I want to ask you, which is more important, half a life or $20 million? The old man was speechless. No amount of money would be of any use if he really died in battle. However, the price of $20 million for a single pill was ridiculously expensive. Although he was rich and could afford to buy dozens of holy healing pills, he still felt distressed to be cheated like this. The choice is yours, not mine, said Tan Xiu. It's up to you to decide whether this deal will go through or not. The old man sensed the injuries in his body and looked at the pill floating in front of him. After weighing the pros and cons, he finally compromised and caught the pill. He tore off the wax paper and directly swallowed it. Be careful, master. It's poisonous. The blond man's expression changed and hurriedly called out. The old man shook his head and said, I'd have some concerns if it were someone else. But he's Duanmu Lin's man, so I can rest assured. A faint smile appeared on the corner of Duanmu Lin's mouth as he cupped his fists and said, Old Zhong, it's really rare for a sharp mouth like yours to be able to say such warm words. I know Tan Xiu's character. He won't harm you. Tan Xiu didn't speak, but Duanmu Lin was right. He wouldn't harm the old man in front of him because he didn't want to act against the people of this profession ever since he learned about the existence of bounty hunters. Although bounty hunters relied on killing to earn money and make a living, they mostly killed mutants. If they encountered a mutant that wasn't committing evil, they wouldn't kill it easily. In other words, most of the bounty hunters were good people. After the old man took the holy healing pill, he felt the pill turn into a surging hot stream that quickly flowed down his throat into his chest and then into his abdomen. Eventually, a huge medicinal efficacy spread out and rushed to his limbs, bones, and internal organs. The old man's expression shifted and he immediately sat cross-legged. Duanmu Lin turned to glance at Tan Xiu and smilingly said, I didn't know that you could also refine pills before. Tan Xiu, I think the price of a holy healing pill for $20 million is really a good deal. May I know how many you have? I'm willing to pay for it. Tan Xiu thought for a while and replied with a voice transmission, I can sell 100 of them to the Special Abilities Bureau every year for $10 million. This is the limit of the holy healing pills I can offer. Duanmu Lin gave a thumbs up and praised, You're truly worthy to be one of us. You're giving me a good discount. As you said, the Special Abilities Bureau will buy 100 holy healing pills from you every year. Chapter 10:13. Time fleeted by and 10 minutes passed in the blink of an eye. The moment the old man sitting cross-legged on the deck of the fishing boat opened his eyes, a glint flashed in his eyes. Immediately after, an excited look burst out from his eyes. His figure floated up as he stared at Tan Xiu and said, 10. I need 10 holy healing pills with this effect. A smile appeared on the corner of Tan Xiu's mouth as he nodded and said, No problem. There are still 9 holy healing pills left in the jade bottle in my hand, and you need to transfer $200 million to my account. Alright. The old man nodded without hesitation. After getting Tan Xiu's account number, he immediately transferred the money to it. The blond man and looked incredulous as they watched their master take the jade bottle with a satisfied look on their faces. The blond man immediately asked, How are your injuries now, master? They're almost healed, said the old man with satisfaction. I just need to adjust my breathing and I'll be able to return to my peak state. The effect of this holy healing pill is much better than I imagined. That little brother surnamed Tang is right. Even if you have this kind of holy healing medicine, when fighting with the enemy, it is equivalent to having half a life. The blond man and looked at each other and their eyes suddenly turned fiery. They moved their eyes away from the jade bottle in their master's hand and quickly whispered a few words. Then looked at Tan Xiu and smilingly asked, Can you sell us some holy healing pills, Mr. Tang? My senior brother and I are willing to pay $100 million to buy 5 of them from you. Tan Xiu let out a strange smile and said, All right, then. You're lucky. I still have 10 holy healing pills left in my hand. To prevent you from deceiving your master and killing others to rob their treasures, I can sell you 5 of them. After saying that, he took out another jade bottle and took out 5 holy healing pills from it. After handing them over, he said, $100 million. Pay the bill now. Please wait a moment. The 2 men looked happy and quickly transferred the money to Tan Xiu's account. The transaction was completed. Tan Xiu looked at the old man and said, Senior Zhong, since your injuries have healed, can you join hands with us to hunt down those 2 half-ghouls? I believe that with your skills as a bounty hunter, you should be able to track them down easily, right? That's right. The old man nodded and said, Those 2 half-ghouls have fled toward La Shangku, about 200 kilometers away from us. However, we need a means of transportation. Otherwise, if they keep running, we won't be able to catch up to them in a short time. No problem. I'll arrange it right away. Duanmu Lin nodded. More than 10 minutes later, 2 military helicopters arrived quickly. As everyone rose into the air, they entered the cabin before the helicopters even landed. Duanmu Lin gave a few orders, and the 2 military helicopters chased in the direction of Lashunku. On the way, Duanmu Lin received another message. There was a murder case at Lashunku. There was no longer a drop of blood in the bodies of the 4 victims. They should have been sucked dry. Damn it. Killing intent surged in Duanmu Lin's eyes as he hung up the phone. He had encountered half-ghouls before. These half-ghouls had spiritual wisdom and were almost like cultivators, possessing formidable power. It would be a piece of cake for them if they wanted to commit murder. Half an hour later, the old man sitting next to Duanmu Lin suddenly said, "They're in the vicinity. The tracking disc should be pointing to the southeast of the mountain forest, and it's definitely no more than 5 kilometers away from us." Tan Xiao glanced at the tracking disc in the old man's hand and said, "Can you tell me the principle of this tracking disc? How can it lock onto the target? Can it even track them from a long distance?" "This is what we bounty hunters rely on to make a living," said the old man with a smile. "Every bounty hunter is inseparable from it. In fact, it's very simple to use. As long as you encounter a target and collect a drop of blood from them, you can track them as long as they don't escape more than 300 kilometers away." "Have you fought those 2 half-ghouls before?" asked Tan Xiao in surprise. The old man's expression turned a bit solemn as he nodded and said, "They were threatening a taxi driver to flee when we found them. They killed the taxi driver when we intercepted them, and we also had a short fight with them. I wouldn't have let them escape if I hadn't been injured. But fortunately, I also injured one of the half-ghouls and dropped his blood on the tracking disc." Tan Xiao rubbed his hands and said with a burning gaze, "Can you sell this to me? Or do you have an extra one? I'm willing to buy it." The old man shook his head and said, "I only have this one, and it took us a lot of effort to buy it from the black market. My previous tracking disc was destroyed in a fight. You can buy it from the black market if you want to buy it. As far as I know, you can buy tracking discs there, and some of them are even better than mine." "Black market?" Tan Xiao thought for a moment and asked, "Where's the black market you mentioned?" "At the side." "You don't know where the cultivation world's black market is, Tan Xiao?" asked Duanmu Lin in surprise. "No, I don't." Tan Xiao shook his head. "I thought you knew about it, so I never told you about it." Duanmu Lin was at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh. The cultivation world's black market is actually in Philadelphia, country. There was originally no city there, but cultivators needed to exchange some cultivation resources, so it gradually developed there and formed a trading market for cultivators all over the world. Its development has been getting faster and faster over the past few decades, and it's almost comparable to a medium-sized city now. "Are there so many cultivators in the world?" asked Tan Xiao with a strange expression. "To think that they can even form a medium-sized city?" Duanmu Lin smiled and said, "There are indeed a lot of cultivators and even a lot of foreign races there. However, most of them are ordinary people who moved there because of the gradual development there. Regardless of whether they are martial cultivators or alien races, they all blend into the crowd of ordinary people. Only when they need to do so will they reveal their identities and conduct transactions with others." Tan Xiao suddenly understood and nodded. "It seems I need to find some time to go to Philadelphia, country. Let's go down now. Those 2 half-ghouls are nearby, so let's go and deal with them." In the depths of the lush and leafy mountain forest, 2 members of the Fan family were fleeing in panic. Their faces were a bit dark, the result of being shrouded by corpse energy. "Where are we going next, fourth brother?" "Those 3 bounty hunters are like dogskin plasters that we can't get rid of. We'll be in big trouble if we don't find a way to kill them." Thick killing intent flashed in Fan Jinzhong's eyes, and there were bloodstains on the corner of his mouth that hadn't been wiped clean. "Those 3 bounty hunters do have some skills, but I'm not worried about them." Fan Jinxing coldly snorted. "What I'm worried about are the Chinese ability users. That damn thing couldn't control his corpse energy, causing his mind to be affected by it. He wantonly slaughtered and brought a disaster to our Fan family. Just think about it. How could those people from the Special Abilities Bureau not appear when such a big thing happened in the Imperial capital? Second brother Fan, you fucking bastard." Fan Jinzhong angrily roared. "It's not easy for our Fan family to obtain a cultivation art. Although it's a corpse cultivator unearthed from an ancient tomb, it can still give us formidable power. According to our original plan, our Fan family would have a huge armed force in just a few decades. After decades of operation, it wouldn't be a problem for us to conspire against China. But in the end, it was all ruined in the hands of that damn bastard. Fan Jinxing suppressed his anger and coldly said, "We may have escaped for the time being, but the rest of our family members are still in the imperial capital. If my guess is correct, they're all under control now. However, there's no way for us to save them given our current situation. We can only escape from China first and then find a way to come back later." Fan Jinzhong nodded and said, "Fourth brother, our Fan family has arranged an escape route more than a decade ago. We can quickly escape once the fact that we're cultivating a corpse cultivation art is exposed. We'll be able to reach the hiding place of the ship dozens of kilometers away. The people there are already ready. It seems that First Uncle's arrangement was wise," said Fan Jinxing. "Those damn bounty hunters and the Chinese government. Just wait. It won't take long for us brothers to come back. We'll make them pay the price when the time comes." Suddenly, Fan Jinxing's expression changed. His slightly gray pupils suddenly shrunk and his body instantly bounced up from the ground. He grabbed Fan Jinzhong's arm and quickly fled to the distance. "They've caught up so fast?" Fan Jinzhong broke free from Fan Jinxing's arm and ran away with a look of disbelief on his face. "Those damn bounty hunters must have a way to track us," said Fan Jinxing in a deep voice. "We must hurry up and escape, else?" His words came to an abrupt halt as he looked at the dozen figures blocking the way in front of him. The brothers were the top members of the Fan family, so they naturally knew about China's Special Abilities Bureau. They also knew that Duanmu Lin was the head of the bureau. It was just that they didn't expect that Duanmu Lin would lead his men to block their way ahead of time, while the bounty hunters chasing them were only a few hundred meters away. Did they cooperate? Fan Jinzhong was a bit desperate. Although he was very strong, the people from the Special Abilities Bureau were not to be trifled with. There was also the bounty hunters. The two of them were not someone they could resist. What should I do? Am I really going to die here? Fan Jinzhong clenched his fists tightly. As he grabbed a rusty bronze sword, he immediately ran towards the left. Chapter 10:14. Seeing that the Fan brothers were trying to escape, everyone present sneered. Now that an inescapable net had been laid here, it would be difficult for the brothers to escape even if they were twice as strong. Trap Dragon. Electric Grid. The moment the two ability users of the Special Abilities Bureau chased after the Fan brothers like ghosts, they unleashed their special abilities. The loose soil flew up and turned into two mud dragons that instantly coiled around the legs of the Fan brothers. Electric currents appeared out of thin air and turned into a big net that enveloped the two men. Fan Jinzhong's eyes widened in anger. As he waved his arm fiercely, the rusty bronze sword in his hand shot out a ball of gray sword light. Almost in the blink of an eye, the earth dragon and the electric net were cut in half. Taking advantage of this gap, the two brothers fled again. Duanmu Lin's expression slightly changed and he coldly said, "I didn't expect them to have magic tools. But so what? They must die today." "That's not a magic tool in his hand, but a ghost tool." Tan Xiu shook his head. "This Fan clansman does have some ability. He can even get his hands on a rarer ghost tool." "What's a ghost tool?" Duanmu Lin was confused. "It's a weapon refined by zombies and half-zombies. After being nourished and tempered by their death chi, it eventually becomes a ghost tool," explained Tan Xiu. "However, the Fan clansman's cultivation should be insufficient to refine a ghost tool. I'm afraid he got that bronze sword in his hand from somewhere else." Upon hearing this, the old man who floated over said, "Tang Xiu's right. Ghost artifacts may be rare, but there are still some places that have them. For example, I once found a ghost tool in the black market. It's just that this thing is very strange. Generally speaking, people who aren't ghost cultivators naturally won't buy a ghost tool. There are a lot of good things in the black market." Tan Xiu was surprised. "There are even ghost tools here?" The old man smiled and said, "There are only unimaginable things in the black market and almost nothing that can't be found. Everything is negotiable as long as you have the money. However, if you were to sell the healing medicine you refined on the black market, it would definitely be snatched up crazily. Even if the price was a little higher, there would still be people willing to buy it. Tan Xiao thought about it and nodded. What you said makes sense. It looks like I'll have to make a trip to the black market soon. The old man's expression changed and he smilingly asked, Tan Xiao, we can go together if you're going to the black market in the near future. I had originally planned to go to the black market after dealing with the 2 half-ghouls. Although I don't need to sell these 2 half-ghouls on the black market, I still have some half-ghouls that I need to sell. Tan Xiao pondered for a moment before shaking his head and said, Senior Zhong, let's exchange contact numbers. I really don't know the specific time. In the following days, I still had some matters to settle. Give me your contact number. I'll call you when I'm there. If you're still there, let's get together again. Okay. The old man nodded and his figure instantly chased after the 2 Fan brothers. His speed was extremely fast and several silver nails instantly shot out from the gap between his fingers. In just a few seconds, the silver nails pierced the backs of the 2 brothers. Demon binding shackles. The blond man's figure was as fast as an arrow. In the blink of an eye, he had already dashed to the back of the 2 Fan brothers who had fallen on the ground. A pitch-black chain was swung and entangled the 2 brothers. At the same time, 4 wind belts entangled and bound the limbs of the 2 brothers. Fuck off. The 2 Fan brothers roared. Seeing that the black chain and the 4 wind belts binding them were about to break, the old man took out a steel ring and directly wrapped it around Fan Jinzhong's neck. Go to hell. A surging aura burst out from Fan Jinxing's body as he broke free from the iron chain and wind belt's shackles. He instantly dashed to the front of the old man and untied the rope from his waist. You're courting death. The old man roared. After narrowly avoiding the golden hook, an orange-yellow longsword was unsheathed from the scabbard on his back. Just as he was about to launch a counterattack, the bound Fan Jinzhong suddenly flicked his finger and a black steel needle shot towards the old man. Trying to plot against me again? The old man's entire body radiated chi and strength as his long sword instantly swept away the steel needle. However, at this moment, the rope in Fan Jinxing's hand swung and the golden hook tore open a bloody wound on the old man's left arm at lightning speed. Not far away. Tang Xiao slightly furrowed his brows. He could faintly sense that something was amiss with Fan Jinzhong and Fan Jinxing. Although the 2 of them were frantically counterattacking, their eyes were filled with a gray aura and a terrifying aura was stirred up by them. It was as though something bad was about to happen. I'll kill them. Tan Xiao pushed off the ground and his body sprinted towards the 2 Fan brothers like a cannonball. As he unsheathed his divine sword, layers of sword shadows instantly swept across. Puff, puff, puff. Fan Jinzhong and Fan Jinxing were scared out of their wits, and their faces were full of fear. Although the 2 brothers desperately resisted, they were still shrouded by layers of sword shadows, and bloody wounds appeared on their bodies. Tan Xiao flicked his wrist, and the layers of sword shadows instantly merged into one. With a violent aura, the 2 brothers were cut in half at the waist. Duanmu Lin's body trembled. He didn't expect Tan Xiao to be so powerful that he could kill the Fan brothers in one move. This kind of strength and the aura exuded from Tan Xiao made him realize that there was a huge gap between him and the current Tan Xiao. At this time, not only Duanmu Lin, but the dozen ability users of the Special Abilities Bureau and the 3 bounty hunters were also dumbfounded. Especially the old man, Old Zhong. His eyes flashed with disbelief as he looked at Tan Xiao as if he was looking at a monster. One move. Tan Xiao only used one move to kill 2 very powerful half-ghouls, which was simply unimaginable. It must be noted that he was already very powerful, but he had to go all out to kill these 2 half-ghouls. He's a cultivator. What level has he reached now? Has he broken through to the Golden Core realm? The old man respected martial strength, and the strong naturally deserved respect, regardless of the other party's gender or age. Although Tan Xiao looked to be in his early 20s, the strength Tan Xiao showed had won his respect. After retrieving the silver nails that were inserted into the Fan brothers' bodies, he looked at Tan Xiao and cupped his fists, saying, "You're very strong, Mr. Tang. Tan Xiu smiled indifferently and said, "They're just too weak. If they were stronger, I'm afraid it wouldn't have been so easy to kill them." The old man shook his head and said, "Even if they were stronger, I'm afraid they could only be on par with me. But facing you, I'm afraid I can only withstand a few moves. Can you tell me if you've broken through to the Golden Core Realm?" Golden Core Realm? Inwardly, Tang Xiu found it funny. His current strength was comparable to an early-stage nascent soul powerhouse, and it was very likely that he wouldn't be outdone. Coupled with his endless means, even a late-stage nascent soul expert would be slain by his sword. However, it was necessary to hide his strength. He didn't want to expose his strength too much, so he nodded and smilingly said, "You can say that I'm at the Golden Core Realm." The old man raised his thumb and praised, "If Mr. Tang becomes a bounty hunter, I'm afraid it will bring a huge impact to our profession. We might even lose our jobs." "Don't worry, senior." Tan Xiu was at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh. "I'm not interested in being a bounty hunter, and I'm too lazy to hunt down those evil creatures who harm ordinary people. As a matter of fact, my real identity is a businessman, and my main business is to make money." The old man was surprised and asked, "A businessman? What kind of business do you have, Mr. Tang?" Tan Xiu let out a faint smile. His fingers moved and a box of God's nectar suddenly appeared in Tan Xiu's hand. After Tan Xiu sent it to the old man, he lightly smiled and said, "It's our first time meeting. Moreover, we've fought the enemy together, so we can be considered as friends. Just take this box of wine as a greeting gift from me to you." "God's nectar?" The old man's eyes lit up and his throat immediately squirmed. "It's the wine produced by my company." Tan Xiu lightly smiled and said, "I hope Senior Zhong will like it." The old man suddenly looked up and incredulously asked, "Is your company the Magnificent Tang Corporation?" "That's right. I'm the owner of the Magnificent Tang Corporation." Tan Xiu nodded. The old man deeply observed Tan Xiu. Although he hadn't known Tan Xiu for a long time, the more he came into contact with Tan Xiu, the more shocked he became. From his initial identity as a cultivator to the medicinal pills concocted by Tang Xiu and his cooperation with him. Then, he killed 2 half-ghouls with a single move, and now, he learned that he was the big boss of the Magnificent Tang Corporation. The old man suddenly realized that he had seen countless people in his life, yet he had unexpectedly misjudged Tan Xiu. It was the first time he met Tan Xiu, yet he was shocked by Tan Xiu. In the Yangtze River, the new waves drive the old waves, and each generation is stronger than the previous one. The old man deeply sighed inwardly and spoke seriously for the first time, "Mr. Tang, this old man is Zhong Jiqing. I used to be a Chinese, but later I was lucky enough to become a disciple of a bounty hunter. It's really a blessing of 3 lifetimes for me to be able to meet such a talented young man like Mr. Tang. I hope we can cooperate more in the future." "You're overpraising me, Senior Zhong." Tan Xiu cupped his fists and smilingly said, "I also believe that we will have many opportunities to cooperate with you in the future. However, since these 2 half-ghouls have been dealt with, I'll transfer $10 million to your account." Duanmu Lin stopped Tan Xiu and said, "Tan Xiu, killing these 2 half-ghouls is the responsibility of the Special Abilities Bureau and the entire country. You don't have to pay for it. Old Zhong, your original account hasn't changed, has it? Do you want me to transfer the money to your original account?" The old man, Zhong Jiqing, nodded and said, "No, it's still the same account." Tan Xiu didn't fight with Duanmu Lin. His money didn't fall from the sky, and he was naturally happy to see Duanmu Lin rush to pay the bill. Chapter 10:15. At a seemingly ordinary courtyard house in the imperial capital. Soldiers in camouflage uniforms stood sentry with steel guns in their hands. Many men and women with stern expressions came in and out with documents in their hands. In the innermost room, there were 2 rows of LCD screens flashing with various patterns. Many people were typing furiously on their keyboards, occasionally conversing with each other. Wei Changsheng sat on the sofa in the corner, calmly reading the documents in his hand. As one of the heads of the intelligence department, the recent thorny cases had given him a headache. Although most of the Fan family's members were under control, The interrogation work was very difficult. Team leader. A burly man strode toward Wei Changxing. A bit of helplessness hung on his grim face at the moment, and his voice sounded a bit strange. Wei Changxing looked up and asked with a frown, "What's the matter?" "That little girl has been crying all day. She doesn't eat, drink, and doesn't want to sleep," said the burly man helplessly. "What should we do? Send her to the detention center?" Wei Changxing fiercely smashed the documents in his hand on the table and angrily said, "If it weren't for that damned girl, the major case in the imperial capital wouldn't have been exposed. Investigate it for me. I don't believe there's such a coincidence in the world. When the Fan family members were killing people in the downtown area, she happened to be in an excellent position. I've investigated everything. She's just a girl from an ordinary family, and her occupation is a live streamer on a live broadcast platform," said the burly man. "She also has a lot of fans. Team leader, I believe you're well aware of our interrogation methods. Given her character, it's impossible for her to hide a secret. I'm afraid she just happened to be there, so she directly broadcasted it on a whim." "Even if it's just a whim, you must detain her for me," said Wei Changxing angrily. "How much of an impact and trouble will it cause to us if she broadcasted this earth-shattering case on the internet? I'll send some people to check those live broadcast platforms later. If there are any violations, block them for me." The burly man hesitated for a moment before he finally nodded with a wry smile. Here, the team leader's orders were above the heavens. Since he had made up his mind, it was useless even if he tried to persuade him. If she had to blame someone, she could only blame that girl for being nosy. Of all the things she could have done, she had to broadcast such a serious case on the internet. In a situation like this, the country couldn't even block it in time. Instead, she went against the thunder and caused such a big mess. Suddenly, the walkie-talkie in the burly man's hands rang. The voice of the soldier in charge of blocking the road came from inside. "Captain, a comrade wants to see Leader Wei." The burly man was taken aback. He glanced at Wei Changxing and asked, "Which comrade?" "He claims to be Tan Xiu, and he has an ID from our security department." "Tan Xiu?" The burly man frowned slightly. He vaguely felt that this name was somewhat familiar. Wei Changxing, who was sitting on the sofa, suddenly looked surprised. He directly got up and said, "It turns out that our great hero has arrived. Although he belongs to our department, it's his first time coming here to report. Let him in." 5 to 6 minutes later, after Tan Xiu stepped into the courtyard house's backyard, he saw Wei Changxing greeting him with a smiling face and warmly extending his hand. "You must be Leader Wei, right?" Tan Xiu smiled. "I'm Tan Xiu, reporting for duty." Wei Changxing laughed aloud and said, "I've heard of your name for a long time, Tan Xiu. I know all the members of our security department except for you." "Please forgive me, Leader Wei," Tan Xiu dryly smiled and said, "I have too many things to do, so I haven't been able to report." Wei Changxing laughed heartily and said, "You're a pillar of the country, so it's natural for you to be busy. Let's not talk about the past. It's good that you can come this time. It's good that you can come. Fortunately, you were present at the time of the major case that happened in the imperial capital. I've already learned from the higher-ups that it was your people who dealt with those murderers, right? Well done. You're worthy to be a member of our security department." "You're overpraising me, Leader Wei." "It's my duty," Tan Xiu said with a smile. Wei Changxing nodded with satisfaction and said, "You're neither arrogant nor haughty, neither humble nor pushy. Well done. Tan Xiu, if I remember correctly, today is Senior Tang's 80th birthday, right? I can't personally attend the celebration for Senior Tang due to too many things recently, so I can only send someone to express my gratitude. But why did you come here today? Is there something else?" "Well, Leader Wei, I actually have two main purposes for coming here this time," Tan Xiu said with a smile. "The first is to see you and report to you about the work. Secondly, it's that rash girl. I hope you can make things convenient for me and not stoop to her level. I'll teach her a good lesson later and not let her cause such trouble again." Wei Changxing stared blankly for a moment and instantly understood the purpose of Tan Xiu's visit today. With a strange expression, he asked, "Do you know that girl called Tian Xiaoming?" Tan Xiu forced a smile and said, "My luck is bad, but I do know that girl. She was the one who reported a few of the things I had done before. Else, I wouldn't have been exposed to the public." "You don't want to be famous?" Wei Changxing was surprised. "Being famous is like a pig being fat." Tan Xiu helplessly said, "I think it's better to keep a low profile. Who would have thought that without my knowledge, that lass would secretly report me to someone else? However, she doesn't have any bad intentions. She has always been promoting positive energy, so I can't blame her even if I don't want to." Wei Changxing nodded. After thinking for a moment, he said, "I originally planned to teach that girl a lesson. I'll lock her up for at least 15 days and let her receive a good education. But since you've come to plead for her, then forget it. Take her away later and teach her a lesson while you're at it. Let her know what can be reported and what can't be reported." "Don't worry. I'll definitely educate her well, Leader Wei," promised Tan Xiu. "That's right, Leader Wei. Do you like to drink? I have some good wine here. Do you want to sell 2 bottles to me?" Wei Changxing stared blankly for a moment before he immediately smiled and asked, "God's nectar?" Tan Xiu took out the God's nectar from his interspatial ring and handed it to Wei Changxing with a smile. "2 yuan. I hope Leader Wei doesn't mind me taking money. 2 yuan? Interesting." The corner of Wei Changxing's mouth curled into a smile. He took out some money from his pocket and found that the smallest denomination was 5 yuan, so he stuffed it to Tan Xiu and said with a smile, "If you brought a lot of God's nectar, you won't mind selling me 3 more bottles, right? There are a lot of people in our department who like to drink." Tan Xiu grinned and took out 3 more bottles of the immortal abode from his interspatial ring. Then he said, "If Leader Wei and your colleagues like God's nectar, you can go directly to Kangxia. I'll tell her in advance." Wei Changxing squinted his eyes. He had a faint guess that Tan Xiu could make God's nectar appear out of thin air. In order to confirm it, he asked in a low voice, "Tan Xiu, Duanmu Lin told me that you're a cultivator. So, the thing you use to store the God's nectar, is it a storage magic treasure unique to cultivators?" "Yes, it's an interspatial ring," answered Tan Xiu without any hesitation. "The space inside is not bad and can store some God's nectar. It's a pity that our country has a rule that we can't give gifts to our superiors. Otherwise, I would have taken out 8 to 10 boxes of God's nectar to show my respect to you, Leader Wei." Wei Changxing burst into laughter and said, "8 to 10 boxes is not necessary, just 2 bottles are enough. You're very good, Tan Xiu. Although it's our first meeting, I like young people like you very much. Work hard in the future and I believe you'll have great achievements in the future." "Thanks for your auspicious words. I'll definitely work hard in the future," said Tan Xiu with a smile. Wei Changxing nodded with a smile and asked, "Are you going to take that girl away now?" "I'll take her away now," Tan Xiu said. "I still have to go back home to celebrate Grandpa's birthday. I'll invite Leader Wei for a drink when I'm free and report to you." "All right," Wei Changxing said with a smile. "Senior Tang's birthday can't miss you, my precious grandson. Come here more often if you have nothing to do in the future." "All right," Tan Xiu replied. Under the lead of the burly man, he came to the side room in the front yard. When the door was pushed open from the outside, a sobbing sound came from inside. A smile outlined on the corner of Tan Xiu's mouth. After he entered, he saw Tian Xiaoming huddled in the corner of the single bed, crying. "Did you learn your lesson, lass?" Tian Xiaoming raised her tear-stained face. When she saw Tang Xiu, she looked stunned and then burst into tears, as though she wanted to vent all the grievances she had been feeling. At the same time, she struggled to stand up from the corner and jumped off the bed into Tan Xiu's embrace. The burly man stood at the door and looked at Tan Xiu and Tian Xiaoming with a strange expression. At this moment, he directly misunderstood that Tian Xiaoming was Tan Xiu's girlfriend and that the two had a very close relationship. Tan Xiu could feel Tian Xiaoming's emotions. He patted her back and said with a smile, "All right, you're a big girl now. Don't cry so easily. I say, you really don't know the seriousness of the matter. You even dared to broadcast that kind of scene. You're lucky that we didn't lock you up for a few years this time. Tian Xiaoming trembled and forcibly stopped crying. Her face was pale due to fear as she asked with a trembling voice, Am I going to jail? Tan Xiao secretly found it funny. He reached out to scratch her nose and said, I should have sent you to jail for a few years to reform yourself. But since I'm here, I can naturally spare you from the calamity of jail. However, you can't be willful anymore in the future. You can't randomly broadcast anymore. Else, I won't be able to save you even if I throw away my face. Tian Xiaoming understood Tan Xiao's meaning. She nodded gratefully, but the tears in her eyes still couldn't stop flowing. At this moment, in Tian Xiaoming's heart, Tan Xiao was not only her idol, but also her guardian angel who gave her a sense of security. Chapter 1016. On the wide highway, the vehicles were like flowing water and the people were like dragons, fully displaying the bustling and elegant demeanor of the imperial capital. Amidst the traffic, Tan Xiao was driving a BMW with a smile on his handsome face. On the front seat, Tian Xiaoming had yet to completely calm down from the lingering fear. Should I send you to the airport? Or send you to the hotel? After a long while, as Tian Xiaoming's complexion turned a bit rosy, Tan Xiao asked with a beaming smile. Where are you going? Asked Tian Xiaoming hurriedly. I'm going home. Tan Xiao said. Isn't your home in Star City? Asked Tian Xiaoming with a confused expression. Yeah, my home is indeed in Star City. But I also have a home in the imperial capital. Tan Xiao said with a smile. Tian Xiaoming, there's no rule stating that you can't have a home in the imperial capital if you have a home in Star City, right? Tian Xiaoming suddenly understood. She recalled Tan Xiao's identity and his ability to make money. Not to mention buying a house in the imperial capital, even buying a few big villas wouldn't be a problem. Since she was still worried that the department would find her to settle the account, she said with a bit of nervousness, I'll go with you. I'll go wherever you go. Cough, cough. Tan Xiao was at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh as he looked at Tian Xiaoming and said, Are you afraid that those people will find trouble with you again? I'm not afraid as long as I'm with you, replied Tian Xiaoming with a vague answer. Tan Xiao was dumbfounded. How could this girl be so timid? Didn't she seem to be relying on him? After thinking for a while, he said with a serious expression, Tian Xiaoming, what about those people before? They are people with special identities, good people who are responsible for the stability of the country. Since I've brought you out, they won't look for you again as long as you don't report that kind of news again. Of course, if you're still worried, you can follow me to my home for the next 2 days. I'll take you back when I return to Star City. I'll go with you to your home, said Tian Xiaoming without hesitation. Tan Xiao felt helpless inwardly, but he still nodded and said, All right. It just so happens that my grandfather is celebrating his 80th birthday. Come with me and join in the fun. However, you're not allowed to start a live broadcast for the next 2 days, and you're not allowed to reveal my private information. I promise I won't. Tian Xiaoming immediately made a swearing gesture. The few alleys surrounding the Tang family's ancestral home had been cordoned off by soldiers standing guard. There were also countless plainclothes patrolling the area to prevent people from causing trouble during Old Master Tang's 80th birthday. However, even so, there were still many people from all over the country who came to celebrate the birthday. All of them brought along their identity invitations that they had obtained in advance and prepared all sorts of gifts, causing the surrounding alleys to seem much livelier than before. Tang Guosheng was not worried about those gifts. On the one hand, he had already said that they could not prepare expensive gifts. On the other hand, he was no longer an official, so he did not have to worry about the impact. Moreover, the Tang family was on the verge of becoming the most powerful family in the capital, so no one would attack the Tang family over such a small matter. Even the head of the family would turn a blind eye to it. Creak. After the white BMW stopped at the entrance of the outer alley, Tan Xiao and Tian Xiaoming got out of the car. He then threw the key to a young man who came to greet them. Tan Xiao, is this your home? Tian Xiaoming was like a curious baby. After looking around, she lowered her voice and asked. Because she had already seen the soldiers standing guard on both sides of the alley. There were also some men in casual clothes patrolling around like bodyguards. Yeah, said Tan Xiao with a smile. Tian Xiaoming noticed that many eyes were looking at her. She immediately grabbed Tan Xiao's arm and asked in a low voice, "What exactly does your family do, exactly? Why are there soldiers standing guard here? Also, look at those people around. They're just like the ones who caught me before. They're a bit scary." Tan Xiao couldn't help laughing. As the saying goes, once bitten by a snake, twice shy. It was very likely that this girl was really traumatized after being caught by the people from the State Security Department. "Don't worry. They're all good people." Tan Xiao let out a faint smile. Suddenly, he recalled something and curiously asked, "That's right. I forgot to ask you. How did you come to the imperial capital?" Tian Xiaoming stared blankly for a moment. Then she immediately patted her forehead and said, "It's over, it's over. I came to the imperial capital because I was invited by a TV station to participate in a program. The program's recording time will be this afternoon." "What program is it?" asked Tan Xiao. "It's an interview program," said Tian Xiaoming. "The number of my fans has increased greatly recently. Every time I broadcast it, hundreds of thousands of viewers will watch it. Sometimes, the number of online fans can exceed 1 million. So I was invited." "I never thought that you'd become a big star," Tan Xiao said with a smile. "How about this? Let's attend my grandpa's birthday banquet first. If I can spare some time in the afternoon, I'll personally send you to the program. If not, I'll send someone to send you there." Tian Xiaoming hesitated for a moment and said, "Then I'll have to greet the TV station first." "All right." As Tan Xiao and Tian Xiaoming chatted, they quickly entered the alley. At the end of the alley, dozens of guests were being authenticated by security personnel. Tan Xiao hardly knew these people, but some of their faces could be seen in the news programs of some TV stations. "Hey buddy, can I borrow a lighter?" When the two of them walked to the back of those people, a young man turned around to greet them. He looked to be about 23 or 24 years old and looked very handsome. The person who was with him just now was a middle-aged man in his 40s or 50s. Tan Xiao took out a lighter and said with a smile, "Are you addicted to smoking again?" The young man grinned and said, "It's not that I'm addicted to smoking. It's just that my grandpa has repeatedly told me to be polite and not to cause any trouble, which made me quite annoyed. In fact, if it weren't for my grandpa forcing me to come here, I really wouldn't want to come to such an occasion." "I don't like this kind of occasion either," Tan Xiao couldn't help laughing and said, "but I can't not come here today." The young man nodded and handed over a cigarette, asking, "Where are you from, brother?" "I'm Yueling from Beihu Province's Wu City. My old man is the second eldest in Beihu Province." "Beihu Province? The second eldest?" Tan Xiao suddenly understood. He didn't light up the cigarette and said with a smile, "I'm Tan Xiao. I'm from Star City, so I'm also a local. Anyways, we'll go inside first. Let's talk later." Yueling stared blankly for a moment before he couldn't help laughing and said, "Dude, are you kidding me? My old man and I have been waiting here for several minutes. I think we'll have to wait a few more minutes to go inside. You came later than us, so how can you go inside ahead of us? Come on, let's smoke. We're all of the same age and have nothing to do anyway, so let's chat." Tan Xiao said with a smile, "I won't stop for long. Let's talk after we get inside." Having said that, he brought Tian Xiaoming to the front of the people in charge of the security check. After nodding to them, they directly entered. Passed? You didn't go through the security check?" Yueling, who was at the back of the line, was stunned with an incredulous look on his face. One must know that this was the Tang family, a super rich and powerful family in the imperial capital, yet this young man could directly enter with his female companion? After Tan Xiao entered, he walked along another alley for tens of meters and saw Tang Wei standing listlessly outside the Tang family's courtyard. Beside him was his first uncle, Tang Yunpeng, and his uncle, Tang Yunqing, who were greeting guests. "You're back, Xiao?" Tang Yunpeng greeted the guests as he saw Tan Xiao coming over and asked with a smile. However, there was a bit of curiosity in his eyes as he glanced at Tian Xiaoming several times. "First uncle, I've dealt with everything, so I rushed back," Tan Xiao said with a smile. Anyways, let me introduce you. This is a friend of mine, Tian Xiaoming. Xiaoming, this is my first uncle and Uncle Yunqing. That brat over there is my big brother, Tang Wei. After Tian Xiaoming saw Tang Yunpeng, a nervous look appeared on her face. She was horrified to find that she had seen Tang Yunpeng on the news more than once. This was a big shot of the country. Tang Wei came over and was also spirited at this moment. He winked at Tan Xiao and said, Tan Xiao, Wei Nian came here early in the morning and is now chatting with First Grandma. I'll go in and see her later, Tan Xiao said with a smile. I've been too busy recently and haven't seen her for a long time. First Uncle Yunqing, I won't accompany you for now. Go ahead, Tang Yunpeng said with a smile. There are quite a lot of guests today. Remember to come and greet them when you see your grandfather and Wei Nian. All right. Tang Xiao complied and led the nervous Tian Xiaoming into the courtyard house's entrance. Tang Wei, on the other hand, followed them with a curious expression. Is this your sister-in-law, Tan Xiao? How many wives do you have? A smile hung on the corner of Tang Wei's mouth as his shifty eyes kept lingering on Tian Xiaoming. Did you get beaten up recently, brat? Tan Xiao scolded with a smile. I heard you got into trouble again, right? Let me tell you, Tian Xiaoming is my friend, not my girlfriend. Be careful if you talk nonsense again, or I'll teach you a lesson again. Tang Wei shrunk his neck and subconsciously touched his buttocks. He forced a smile and said, It's true that good news doesn't go out, but bad news travels 1,000 miles. Even a busy person like you knows about it. All right. I'm going to find Chu Yi and the others. Tan Xiao quickly stopped him and said, Wait a minute. I have something to do later, so you take care of Xiaoming. Remember, don't bully her. Tang Wei stared blankly for a moment before he immediately nodded and said, Come with me, beauty. I'll introduce some friends to you later. Tian Xiaoming nervously looked at Tan Xiao and said in a low voice, Can I be with you? I'm a bit scared. Don't be afraid. This is my home, no one will dare to bully you. Tan Xiao said with a smile. Besides, Tang Wei is a devil incarnate. With him taking care of you, no one will dare to bully you. I'll come to you after I'm done with my business. So, Tian Xiaoming hesitated for a moment before she nodded silently. Chapter 10:17. As Tian Xiaoming was taken away by Tang Wei, Tan Xiao came to the backyard alone and met several acquaintances along the way, such as the Bai family's patriarch of Guangyang province, the Huang family's patriarch of Fukang province, and several businessmen he knew in the business world. Of course, the one who made him feel interested was his future father-in-law, Mu Jianhua. After greeting him, Tan Xiao came to the main house and saw his grandfather, Tang Guoxing, chatting with several seniors. He immediately walked over and said, Grandpa, everything's settled. Very good. I heard from that brat Duanmu Lin that you did a good job this time, said Tang Guoxing with satisfaction. Come, let me introduce you to some elders. Chu Heng, Chu family's patriarch. Song Gang, Mu family's patriarch. Mu family's patriarch Mu Hongtao. Bai family's patriarch Bai Yichen. Li family's patriarch Li Shirong. After greeting them one by one, Tan Xiao said with a smile, Grandpas, you guys chat first. I'll have a word with Grandma and then I'll go outside to welcome the guests. Tang Guoxing waved and said, Xiao, you don't need to welcome the guests. It's enough to have Yunpeng and Yunqing outside. There's something we old guys want to talk to you about. Upon hearing this, Tan Xiao pulled a stool and sat down next to Tang Guoxing, curiously asking, What is it? Tang Guoxing exchanged glances with the other 5 old men and said, There's a big project going on in the country recently, the development of Mang City in the west. This is a big project with a total investment of more than 100 billion, maybe even hundreds of billions. Although the national policy is very good, the country doesn't have much money, so it's going to bid for the whole country. We just discussed it and hope to win the development rights of Mang City. Tan Xiao frowned and asked, Grandpa, I want to know, what's the value of developing Mang City? There are 3 aspects, said Tang Guoxing. First, Mang City's geographical location is very special. It's located at the junction of 3 provinces in the west. If we can transform Mang City into a real big city, the state will invest some funds to build a 3-province highway to completely connect the 3 provinces. Second, it will definitely become an important tourist area in the country in the future because the natural environment is very good and there are a large number of national protected animals, so it can attract a large number of domestic and foreign tourists. So it's worth developing. At this point, Tang Guosheng paused. Tan Xiu revealed a curious expression. He felt that the first 2 reasons were somewhat far-fetched. After all, this was a huge project that required an investment of hundreds of billions, or even hundreds of billions. If this was all, the reason was far from enough. After some thought, he asked, "What's the third?" "Mines," said Tang Guosheng. A huge copper mine had been discovered in the mountains near Mang City. In the near future, the country will start mining the copper mine there. At that time, the number of residents there will increase greatly, and it will be qualified to become a big city. Copper mine? Tan Xiu had a look of surprise on his face. If it really was a large mine, mining would require a large number of workers. Even some of the workers' families would follow them there. In addition, with the development of the city, there would probably be more people going there to settle down. Suddenly, Tan Xiu realized a problem. He raised his head and asked, "Who is the current leader of Mang City?" Tang Guosheng and the other 5 old men looked at each other and nodded with a satisfied smile. "Mu Xinfeng of the Mu family," said Tang Guosheng with a smile. Tan Xiu suddenly understood. He looked at the Mu family's patriarch, Mu Hongtao, and finally understood why Mu Hongtao was qualified to sit here today. It must be noted that the Mu family was not comparable to the Chu family, Song family, Bai family, and Li family. Even the gap between the Mu family and the other families was very big. The investment is a bit big. If the operation is not done well, there will be serious losses. However, I don't think this will happen since it's a cooperation between the 6 families. What I'm most concerned about now are the other 2 problems. If we can solve these 2 problems, we can do it. "Tell me, Tan Xiu, what are the 2 problems?" asked Mu Hongtao. "Who will be the leader of the cooperation between the 6 families?" said Tan Xiu with a straight face. "How much money can the 6 families take out in total?" "Leader?" Tang Guosheng and the other 5 looked at each other. After a long while, Mu Hongtao said, "I have no objection to the Tang family taking the lead." The other 4 patriarchs pondered for a moment and also nodded. The Tang family was like the sun at high noon now. It wouldn't take long for them to become the most powerful family in Huaxia, so it was acceptable for them to take the lead. Tang Guosheng squinted and a satisfied look flashed in his eyes. He spread his hands and said with a smile, "Xiu, it's not a problem for the Tang family to take the lead. That child Tang Dong has been through many years of experience and is already able to take charge. However, you know the Tang family. We don't have much money now." "The Mu family can gather 20 billion yuan in a month," said Mu Hongtao. "Any more and I'm afraid it will affect the business in other areas." Chu Heng, the Chu family's patriarch, said, "The Chu family can also take out 20 billion yuan. If we don't have enough money later, we can take out another 20 billion. As for more money, I'm afraid it will be difficult," said Bai Yichen. "More or less," said Song Gang, the Song family's patriarch. "Same as everyone else." Li Shirong, the Li family's patriarch, said with a smile. "Since each of the 5 families can take out 20 billion yuan, it's 100 billion yuan in total," said Tan Xiu. "If the Tang family wants to take the lead, then we can take out 40 billion yuan. All of them add up to 140 billion yuan. It may seem like a lot of money, but it's still far from enough to rebuild a city. However, the profits after the reconstruction will be continuous. It should be enough to deal with the follow-up construction. If the funds are still insufficient in the later stage, each family can add more funds and the profit distribution ratio will be adjusted. Grandpa, I can still take out 40 billion yuan. I'll send someone to transfer the money to you later." Tang Guosheng showed a satisfied smile and nodded. "Directly transfer the money to Tang Dong. Later, give him full authority to handle the investment in Mang City." "All right." Tan Xiu nodded. The other 5 patriarchs were shocked. They never expected that Tang Xiu would be able to come up with 40 billion yuan. It must be noted that Tang Xiu's magnificent Tang Corporation had been established for less than 2 years. Coupled with the rapid development of the magnificent Tang Corporation, especially the construction of the Magic City Industrial Park, it was simply burning money. 40 billion yuan. Each of their families could also take out so much money, but their funds would be slightly affected after taking it out. If they were to take out more money, they might even suffer a lot of losses. At this moment, they suddenly understood why Tang Guoxing waited for Tan Xiu's arrival to mention the matter of Mang City to a junior. They also understood why Tan Xiu was involved in this matter. This wealth was Tan Xiu's capital. Mu Hongtao grinned and said, "It seems that my granddaughter has found a promising man. Tan Xiu, you should visit the Mu family when you have time in the future. You and Weining are not young anymore, so I think your wedding date should be put on the agenda. If you think it's too early, you can get engaged first." What an old fox. The other patriarchs cursed inwardly one after another. They had all heard that Mu Weining was known as the first beauty in the imperial capital. Being able to become a couple with Tan Xiu made them somewhat envious. But now they secretly sighed. Why didn't they have a granddaughter who was the first beauty in the imperial capital? Otherwise, they could marry the Tang family and have a grandson-in-law like Tan Xiu. Tan Xiu didn't want to participate in the content and details of the cooperation. Although Tang Guoxing valued him very much, he didn't think too much about it at the moment. It had been a few days since he left Nine Dragons Island. Although he could receive Mo Ao's report every day, he still wanted to rush back to Nine Dragons Island as soon as possible to solve the problem there. However, once he took out 40 billion yuan, he would probably be penniless. Although he had a good income recently, whether it was the income from Star City's new city brought to him by Kang Xia or the money he earned from selling medicinal pills, all the money he had in his hands before could barely make up 40 billion yuan. After leaving, Tan Xiu turned around and entered the side room. He saw a group of women surrounding his grandmother, Qin Changyue, talking and laughing. A smile suddenly appeared on his face as he greeted the familiar elders and nodded to the unfamiliar ones. Then his eyes fell on Mu Weining. Tan Xiu. Upon seeing Tan Xiu, Mu Weining suddenly looked a bit pleasantly surprised. "What are you talking about with Grandma?" Tan Xiu said with a smile. A shy expression flashed in Mu Weining's eyes as she whispered, "Nothing. I'm just accompanying Grandma to chat about daily life." Qin Changyue said with a smile, "Weining, this child is easily shy. As a show, you and Weining are not young anymore. It's time to consider marriage. I just told your mom that even if you still have to finish your studies, you should at least get engaged first, right? This old woman can't wait to hold a great-grandson." Tan Xiu let out a hollow laugh a few times and said perfunctorily, "Grandma, I'll give you a definite letter later about the engagement. Anyways, I still have things to do outside, so I'll take Weining out first. Have a good chat." How could Qin Changyue not see Tan Xiu's perfunctory words? She shook her head helplessly and said to Su Lingyun at the side with a smile, "Lingyun, take some time to have a good chat with Xiu. He's not young anymore. Don't tell me you're not anxious to hold a big grandson?" "I don't want." Su Lingyun said with a smile. After leaving the side room with Mu Weining, Tan Xiu immediately felt relieved and said with a smile, "Don't listen to those old people's nonsense. We have too many things to do now, so we'll talk about marriage later. But if they push us too hard, we'll find some time to get engaged and have a formal ceremony first. I'll listen to you." Mu Weining chuckled. Chapter 10:18. Tan Xiu reached out to hug Mu Weining's shoulder. Ignoring the gazes of many people in the surroundings, he said with a smile, "Are you free or not? If so, help me take care of someone. I'm a bit worried about leaving it to that Tang Wei." "Who is it?" asked Mu Weining, confused. "A troublemaker." Tan Xiu helplessly said, "She's from Star City." "She's from Star City. When I was giving medical services at Star City Chinese Medical Hospital, she was the one who broadcasted the live broadcast and made me known to everyone. Later, I asked her to help me report the situation of an orphanage in Star City through a live broadcast, so we became acquainted. As a result, that girl got herself into trouble this time. Have you heard about the major case that happened in the imperial capital in the past 2 days? Mu Weining blinked and immediately said with a smile, I know who it is. Isn't she the anchor Meng Meng? Sure enough, you also watched the live broadcast. Tan Xiu forced a smile. That's right, it's that troublemaker. I didn't expect that she would be so daring to broadcast it live. I only found out about it after those villains were dealt with. It was too late to stop it, so I fished her out after she was taken away by the security department. However, she seemed to be frightened and didn't want to go back to Star City by herself. Moreover, she insisted on following me. She even insisted on following me, so I brought her here. A hero saving the damsel in distress? Asked Mu Weining with a strange expression. Don't tell me she likes you? If I really have such charm, then I'd be a god. Tan Xiu said with a smile. That girl is young and pure. I've only met her a few times, so I don't have any feelings for her. If it wasn't for the orphanage in Star City, I would have driven her back to Star City long ago. Mu Weining chuckled and then said, Where is she? I'll go find her. I'll take you there, said Tan Xiu. She went with Tang Wei. At the courtyard, Tian Xiaoming followed behind Tang Wei with a nervous expression, like a panda being watched by a crowd. Even though the men and women around her were of the same age as her, some were a few years older than her, and some were a few years younger than her, she almost had the urge to turn around and run away when she saw these young masters and ladies with extraordinary temperaments. Moreover, after a short conversation with Tang Wei, she finally figured out one thing. Tan Xiu's grandfather was Tang Guoxing, a great figure of the country, a great figure in the truest sense of the word. Even Tan Xiu's uncles, were either high-ranking officials or powerful people in the army. This made her heart tremble even more. However, Tian Xiaoming realized that ever since she found out about Tan Xiu's true identity, she didn't feel repulsed. Instead, she admired Tan Xiu even more. Because in her imagination, those second generations of officials and rich second generations were all a bunch of hedonistic young masters with no real ability at all. They were all embroidered pillows. But Tan Xiu really wasn't. He was extremely skilled in traditional Chinese medicine and could even be compared to Bian Ke and Hua Tuo in ancient times. Moreover, he had founded a super powerful company like the magnificent Tang Corporation. Are you really brought back by young Master Tan Xiu? A girl in a long dress with her hair combed into a beautiful bun asked with wide eyes. Despite being very nervous, Tian Xiaoming still nodded and said, It was Tan Xiu who brought me back. A bit of envy appeared on the girl's face as she said, I really didn't expect that Tan Xiu would bring you back. However, I heard that Tan Xiu's fiancé is Mu Weining. How? Tang Wei glared at the girl and said, Don't talk nonsense. Mu Weining is indeed Tan Xiu's girlfriend, and Xiaoming is Tan Xiu's friend, a very good friend. Don't be so scheming. If you want to get close to my good brother, then go all out. I firmly believe that there's no wall that can't be pried open and no boyfriend that can't be seduced in this world. Tang Ying raised her fist and smilingly scolded, Are you looking for a beating, kid? Wei Ning is my bestie, yet you dare to instigate everyone to seduce her boyfriend? I'll see Wei Ning later and tell her your words word for word. Let's see if she'll remember you later. Tang Wei looked like he was begging for mercy as he cupped his fists and said, Big sis, my good big sis, please spare me. If Wei Ning really marries Tan Xiu after some time, then she'll become my official sister-in-law. If she remembers me at that time, then I'll have a good time to eat in the future. Upon hearing Tang Wei and Tang Ying's words, Tian Xiaoming curiously asked, You said that Tan Xiu has a girlfriend? Is his girlfriend outstanding? In an instant, the dozens of young men and women present all stared at Tian Xiaoming, dumbfounded. The entire scene turned silent as they looked at her as though they were looking at a monster. Outstanding, huh? They were all juniors of big families and thought that they were outstanding. But when they asked themselves, they knew that Mu Weining was definitely more outstanding than them. Not to mention her talent, just her appearance, figure, and temperament alone made her known as the first beauty in the imperial capital. It was no joke. Tian Xiaoming stared with wide eyes and asked with a puzzled expression, "Did I say something wrong? Tan Xiao is very outstanding in my eyes. He's more outstanding than any other boys. If there's no really outstanding girl, she's not worthy of him." "Xiaoming, do you think you're worthy of Tan Xiao?" Tang Wei asked with a strange smile. Immediately, everyone had a strange smile on their faces. "I'm not worthy of him." Tian Xiaoming shook her head without hesitation. "Tan Xiao is like the sun in the sky, and I'm like the stars in the sky. How can a speck of starlight compete with the blazing sun? How can I be worthy of him?" Huff! The people around heaved a long sigh of relief. They thought that this girl didn't have any self-awareness. Tang Ying liked the innocent Tian Xiaoming very much. She stepped forward and pulled her hand, saying with a smile, "Xiaoming, since you're a friend of my younger brother, Tan Xiao, then you'll be my friend from now on. If anyone dares to bully you, just tell me. Big Sis Ying will stand up for you." Tian Xiaoming now knew Tang Ying's identity. She suddenly felt flattered. She didn't expect that Tang Ying didn't have the slightest temper of a young lady and was so amiable and approachable. She hurriedly nodded and said, "Thank you, Big Sis Ying. You and Tan Xiao are both good people." Tang Ying couldn't help laughing and said with a smile, "Little Sis Xiaoming, don't give me the good person card." "That's right, where did Tan Xiao go? Why didn't I see him coming with you?" "Big Sis, Tan Xiao went to see Grandpa." Tang Wei answered. "He seems to have something to say." After a while, holding Mu Weiniang's hand, Tan Xiao walked into the courtyard. After seeing Tian Xiaoming beside Tang Ying, he faintly smiled and said, "Big Sis Ying, you know Xiaoming, right? This girl is timid, so don't make fun of her." Tang Ying smiled and said, "Don't worry. I don't even have the time to protect her, so how can I scare her? But you two are holding hands and showing off your love, huh?" Hee hee. Tan Xiao let out a hollow laugh. Tian Xiaoming's eyes widened as she looked at Tan Xiao holding Mu Weiniang's hand. Only at this moment did she realize how stupid her previous question was. Not to mention this girl's talent, just her appearance, figure, and temperament were already 1 in a billion. Even she had never seen anyone who could be compared to her in real life. Beautiful. Too beautiful. Even though she was a girl, she still felt attracted to Mu Weiniang. It was this feeling that caused her little heart to thump a few times. Mu Weiniang came before Tian Xiaoming and said with a smile, "Hello, I'm Mu Weiniang, Tan Xiao's girlfriend. You're Xiaoming, right? Tan Xiao just told me about your situation. I'm very happy that you can come to Grandpa Tang's 80th birthday party." Tian Xiaoming gulped and stammered, "Hello, I'm Tian Xiaoming. I'm very happy to attend Grandpa Tang's 80th birthday party." "Big Sis Weiniang, you're so beautiful. You're the most beautiful girl I've ever seen." A smile appeared in Mu Weiniang's eyes. She turned her head and glanced at Tan Xiao. Then she affectionately pulled Tian Xiaoming's hand and said with a chuckle, "I like you very much. You're Tan Xiao's friend, so you'll be my friend in the future. I hope you can treat me as a friend in the future." Tian Xiaoming nodded her head like a chick chasing rice and said with an excited face, "I will. I'll definitely treat Big Sis Weiniang as a good friend." "And me too," said Tang Ying with a smile. Standing at the side, Tan Xiao watched the women talking and laughing wittily. He immediately smiled and said, "Big Sis Weiniang, do you have anything to do this afternoon?" Mu Weiniang shook her head. Tang Ying directly said, "Nothing. But do you have something to do? Since you have nothing to do, then accompany Xiaoming to the TV station." Tan Xiao said with a smile. "She's going to accept an interview program this afternoon." No need," said Tian Xiaoming all of a sudden. "It's because I lost contact yesterday. I just called the program team, and they said they've cut me off." Tang Ying frowned and said with dissatisfaction, "Don't worry, Xiaoming. Do you think the TV station can cut you off just because they say so? Just wait for me to make a call. I'll make sure they cut all the interviewees and only interview you. Give me their cell phone number, quickly." Tian Xiaoming's lips squirmed and she stuttered. "Big Sis Ying, there's no need, right? In fact, it's fine if I don't participate." "Xiaoming, Your character makes you easy to be bullied, said Tang Ying. You've already said that you'll be interviewed, and you've come to the imperial capital from Star City. But they actually kicked you off because you lost contact yesterday. That's simply bullying. Give me your phone number. Trust me. Tian Xiaoming looked at Tan Xiu with a bit of an awkward expression. Since Big Sis Ying wants to stick up for you, just give her their phone number, said Tan Xiu with a smile. It's a program, after all. Since you can participate, there's no need for you to go to the imperial capital from Star City. But remember, don't talk irresponsibly, especially about what happened in the past 2 days. Chapter 10:19. Tan Xiu chatted with them for a while before he left because he had something to do. Just as he came to the door, he happened to see Qin Ling coming over. His eyes were looking around as if he was looking for someone. Hey brother, you're here? Qin Ling's eyes lit up upon seeing Tan Xiu and he strode over to greet him. Are you looking for me? Asked Tan Xiu with a smile. Is there something you need? Qin Ling smiled and said, It's nothing. It's just that I don't know many people here. We met outside before, so it means that we're fated to meet. Also, I want to introduce you to a friend. Don't look like you don't care. Let me tell you something. This friend of mine has an unusual identity. Who is this friend of yours? Asked Tan Xiu with a smile. With a proud expression on his face, Qin Ling grabbed Tan Xiu's wrist and pulled him into the courtyard. His eyes looked around. When he saw Tang Wei's figure, he immediately became a bit excited and said, This friend of mine is a descendant of the Tang family, the famous young Master Tang Wei. I was the one who entertained young Master Tang when he went to Beihu province. I seem to know this friend you just mentioned, said Tan Xiu with a smile. Qin Ling stared blankly and his pace slowed down a lot. He then asked in surprise, You know him too? That's right, I forgot to ask you. What does your family do, brother? Some are officials and some are businessmen, said Tan Xiu with a smile. Those who can come here should have very powerful family backgrounds. Qin Ling nodded. I just thought that you looked familiar before, brother, but I can't remember where I've seen you before. But it doesn't matter. We're friends in the future. At this moment, Tang Wei had also seen Tan Xiu and Qin Ling. With a curious expression, he greeted them and asked, How come you two are together? Did you know each other before? Young Master Tang, I met brother Tan Xiu outside today, said Qin Ling hurriedly. I think he's a good guy, so I wanted to introduce him to you. I didn't expect that he just said that you knew each other before. Tang Wei couldn't help laughing as he pointed at Tan Xiu and asked, Qin Ling, do you really not know who he is? Qin Ling shook his head and said in confusion, I just feel that he looks familiar, but I really don't know who he is. Young Master Tang? Tang Wei interrupted him with a smile. According to age, he's my younger brother. In terms of ability, he is my elder brother. You haven't even heard of Tan Xiu, the young master of the Tang family? Isn't this news a little too ill-informed? Tan Xiu? Tan Xiu of the Tang family? Qin Ling was stunned. His pupils suddenly contracted, and his eyes were filled with disbelief. He finally remembered why he felt that Tan Xiu looked familiar when he first saw Tan Xiu. So he was the famous Tan Xiu of the Tang family. That's right, he was also the famous young divine doctor, Tan Xiu, as well as the magnificent Tang Corporation's big boss, Tan Xiu. Holy shit! Qin Ling groaned inwardly. He finally understood why the guards didn't check Tan Xiu's ID when he came in. It turned out that he was a member of the Tang family. Awkward. Qin Ling was so embarrassed at the moment that he wished he could find a hole to burrow into to cover his embarrassment. This was really shameful. He had lost a lot of face. Wasn't it stupid to introduce him to his elder brother? Tan Xiu let out a faint smile and looked at Qin Ling's awkward expression. He patted his shoulder and smilingly said, I didn't make it clear before, so you misunderstood me, brother Qin Ling. Brother Wei, this brother is a good person. Take care of him since he has come to our house. I'll go outside first to greet the guests with Uncle and Uncle Yunqing. Alright, go ahead. Tang Wei laughed and grabbed Qin Ling's shoulder. While walking inside, he smilingly said, You made a mistake, didn't you? But you're really lucky, kid. I don't need to say anything about Tan Xiu's ability, especially when it comes to judging people. His vision is absolutely accurate. Since he said that you're a good person, then I'll make friends with you. Let's go, I'll introduce some friends to you. Qin Ling was a bit excited after hearing it. He didn't expect that he would make a mistake and actually have a relationship with Tan Xiao, and even get Tang Wei's approval. He was quite clear about the character of the Tang family's young master, Tang Wei, who had eyes on the top of his head and was very difficult to get close to. Now that he was able to get his approval, he was really lucky. A few minutes later, after Tan Xiao appeared outside the courtyard's gate, he saw his uncle, Tang Yunpeng, and uncle, Tang Yunqing, greeting the guests. He nodded to the unfamiliar guests and then walked to the front of the two. Tang Yunpeng smiled and invited the guests into the house. Then he meaningfully asked Tan Xiao, "Did you meet with the old master and the others? Did you talk about something interesting?" Tan Xiao understood what Tang Yunpeng was referring to, so he nodded and said, "Yeah. Our Tang family is in charge, so I'm afraid Uncle Tang Dong will be very busy in the future. As for the money, I took out 40 billion yuan, which should be enough for the early stage." Tang Yunpeng's eyes lit up. He raised his thumb and praised, "This nephew of mine is really rich and overbearing. He took out 40 billion yuan just like that. Anyways, who was the one who proposed the leadership?" Those elders didn't want to bring it up. They felt that it wouldn't look good on their face, so I directly brought it up. Tan Xiao smiled. "In any case, I'm their junior, so it's not a problem for me to say something inconvenient to them." Wisdom is indeed the most powerful power. Tang Yunpeng praised. "I really don't know how your brain works, kid. You've made a great contribution to the family, so what reward do you want? Your uncle will do whatever it takes to get it for you. I don't need any reward." Tan Xiao smiled. "It's just that I'll be leaving the imperial capital after Grandpa's birthday is over. I'll return to Star City and then go abroad to handle some things. I heard you've been busy abroad recently. What exactly are you doing?" asked Tang Yunpeng curiously. "My people have a conflict with some foreign cultivation forces," said Tan Xiao. "There will be a very brutal battle soon. If we can achieve a complete victory this time, those foreign cultivation forces will never dare to provoke us again. But if we lose, we'll suffer great losses." Cultivation forces? Tang Yunpeng and Tang Yunqing's complexion changed and their expressions instantly turned solemn. "Is there anything you need us to do, Tan Xiao?" asked Tang Yunpeng in a deep voice. "Our Tang family's armed forces are not very strong, but we have a lot of people. Just tell us if you need us. At worst, we'll use our people's lives to pay for it, but we must eliminate all the enemies. The strength of those cultivators can't be won with numbers." Tan Xiao shook his head. "You don't need to worry, uncle. I won't send people to fight them if I don't have absolute confidence in winning. As a matter of fact, it's better to say that those experts from those cultivation forces are my sparring partners." Tang Yunpeng and Tang Yunqing exchanged dismayed glances with a strange expression on their faces. After a while, Tang Yunpeng said, "Tan Xiao, I'd like to see those people you've trained if you have time." "Don't go there for the time being." Tan Xiao nodded and said, "Wait until the matter over there is resolved, then you can go there. Otherwise, it'll be very difficult for me to guarantee your safety." "I understand." Tang Yunpeng nodded. "Besides, with my status, I need to apply to the higher-ups if I want to go abroad, so I'm afraid it'll be very difficult for me to go out in a short time." Shortly after, Tan Xiao accompanied Tang Yunpeng and Tang Yunqing to greet the guests. Many guests came to the 80th birthday of the Tang family's old patriarch, Tang Guosheng. As long as they had the qualifications, they would try their best to come. It was nearly noon. Tang Yunpeng and Tang Yunqing returned to the courtyard house, while Tan Xiao put his hands in his pockets and strolled outside. He needed to observe the surrounding situation. If there was no problem, then he would go in to attend the old patriarch's birthday banquet. Ever since he destroyed the Yao family, Tan Xiao clearly realized that no matter how big a family was, there would always be potential enemies. Although the Tang family was now in the limelight, no one knew how many potential threats were hidden in the background. "Is there any special situation?" asked Tan Xiao as he looked at Tang Hu was in charge of the security work. Tang, who was an outstanding talent cultivated by Tang Guisheng. Although he didn't have the Tang family's bloodline, he had been following Tang Guisheng since childhood and was absolutely loyal to the Tang family. There's no special situation. Tang, who shook his head. All the guests who meet the entry criteria have gone in, and those who don't meet the criteria have all left. Tan Xiao stared blankly and asked with a confused expression, "What do you mean they don't meet the criteria? Those who can come to celebrate Grandpa's birthday should have an extraordinary background, right?" "That's right. Except for an old beggar." "An old beggar?" Tan Xiao's expression moved and asked, "Where is he now?" Pointing to the alley entrance in the distance, Tang Hu said, "He just left 40 minutes ago. He should be gone by now." Tan Xiao nodded and strode out of the alley entrance. Suddenly, his expression moved as he looked at the side of the road tens of meters away. There was an old man in ragged clothes. Beside the old man, there was a little girl of 5 or 6 years old. She sat quietly by his side. After walking over, Tan Xiao observed the old man and the little girl. He immediately frowned and said, "Old man, are you here to attend the birthday banquet?" The old man raised his head and bitterly nodded. "Yeah. It's a pity that I can't get in." Those who can attend the birthday banquet, aside from the Tang family's relatives, there are also a lot of big shots, said Tan Xiao. "Are you related to the Tang family?" The old man was silent for a moment. He turned to look at the little girl with a bit of reluctance in his eyes. He nodded and said, "I'm not related, but I can talk about it. Alas, I wanted to see him for the sake of this child, and also for my last wish, but I didn't expect." Tan Xiao's eyes swept over the several scars on the old man's neck and finally stopped at the left cheek. He found that the old man didn't have a left ear. Further, he also noticed that the old man exuded a deathly aura. It was likely that he was a person who was about to die. "Old man, if you can tell me your identity, I might be able to take you inside." The third chapter has been updated. Seeking monthly votes for support. Chapter 1020. The old man looked surprised. After observing Tan Xiao for a while, he forced a smile and said, 13 years. I've been following the old leader since I was 10 years old. I left at the age of 23 due to special reasons. I'm now 73 years old, and I haven't seen him for 50 years. I don't even know if the old leader still remembers me now. Is the old leader you mentioned the one who will be celebrating the Tang family's birthday today? Asked Tan Xiao. The old man nodded. His hand trembled as he took out a half-pack of crumpled cigarettes from his pocket. He took one out and was about to light it when he suddenly thought of something. He secretly shook his head and stared at the cigarette in a daze. He didn't speak. It was as though he had fallen into the past. I can roughly guess some things, old man, said Tan Xiao. But I'm afraid your body isn't very good right now. The old man came back to his senses. He looked up at Tan Xiao and helplessly said, I'm half a step into the coffin, and I'm only left with my last breath. That's right, little brother. Can you help me pass a message to the old leader? Even if I can't see him in this life and feel a bit regretful. But Tan Xiao interrupted the old man and said, Come with me, old man. I'll take you inside. The old man stared blankly for a moment. He tremblingly stood up and asked with a face full of hope, Can you really take us inside? Yes, I can, said Tan Xiao. A trace of tears overflowed from the old man's eyes as he hurriedly nodded. He then pulled the little girl up and said, Did you hear that? Grandpa's last hope is still there. Tan Xiao supported the old man and didn't say anything more. Under the watchful eyes of Tang Hu and many guards, he took them into the courtyard house. Soon, they arrived at the innermost courtyard. Many people looked over curiously because of the old man's attire. Tang Guisheng was sitting in the house at the moment, chatting with several old men. Suddenly he saw his son, Tang Yunpeng, coming from the outside and smilingly said, Yunpeng, how's the situation outside? Almost all the guests have arrived, Dad, said Tang Yunpeng. However, Xiao brought in an old man and a young man, and said that the old man wants to see you. Tang Guisheng was confused. An old man and a young man? Who is that old man? I don't know him either. Tang Yunpeng shook his head and said, He looks like an ordinary old man judging from his clothes. Tang Guosheng thought for a moment, then got up and said, Xiao has always done things with deep meaning. Since even you don't know him, let's go and take a look. Half a minute later, when Tang Guosheng stepped out of the room, his gaze fell on the old man a dozen meters away. Suddenly, he was stunned. He observed the old man's face and found him vaguely familiar, but he couldn't remember who this old man was. You are? Tang Guosheng walked up to the old man and looked at the old man's agitated face. Two streams of tears flowed down his wrinkled face. The old man shook off Tan Xiu's support and let go of the little girl's hand. His body trembled as he took 2 steps forward and knelt before Tang Guosheng in front of everyone. You can't. Although Tang Guosheng couldn't recognize the person in front of him, he still hurriedly reached out to support him. The old man avoided Tang Guosheng's outstretched hands and knelt on the ground, sobbing, A brother is like a father. I have no regrets in this life since I can see the old leader again before I die. Zicheng? In the depths of Tang Guosheng's heart, the softest part seemed to have been touched. All of a sudden, his eyes widened, and a look of disbelief appeared in his eyes. The people around could see that Tang Guosheng's body was somewhat trembling. Who? You're Zicheng? Yours was Zicheng? The old man raised his head and sobbed, You still remember me? Tang Guosheng suddenly threw himself to the ground and hugged the old man. Tears welled up in his eyes as he called out in a trembling voice, You're really Zicheng? The old man wailed and cried, It's me. It's really me. Tang Guosheng suddenly let go of the old man and immediately got up and took a step back. His tearful eyes stared at the old man. Suddenly, under the watchful eyes of everyone, he slapped the old man's face loudly and then pointed at the bridge of his nose and cursed, You bastard! Where the fuck have you been all these years? Tell me, where the fuck have you been? West, ugly, cried the old man. Tang Guosheng's complexion instantly turned as pale as paper. He looked at the old man in disbelief and could no longer hold back his tears. He threw himself to the old man again and hugged him in his arms again, crying, You bastard! Who told you to go back? Who told you to guard that place for me? Do you know that? Do you know how hard I've been looking for you all these years? From the south to the north, from the east to the west, I've sent people to almost search the entire country. But I just couldn't find you. The old man's body suddenly trembled a few times, and a trickle of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. However, he acted as if he didn't notice it as he desperately shook his head and said, Zicheng has become a cripple. Zicheng can no longer protect you. Zicheng still remembers the land that was dyed red by Ugly's blood, and Yundi was there. Yundi? At this moment, Tang Guoshou, Tang Guosheng, Tang Yunpeng, Tang Yunda, Tang Min, and even Tang Dong, Tang Yen, and Tang Yunqing in the courtyard all had strange expressions. Others might not know, but they knew very well who this Yundi that the old man mentioned was. In particular, Tang Guoshou, Tang Guosheng, and Tang Yunpeng clenched their fists at this moment. In fact, Tang Yunpeng was not Tang Guosheng's eldest son, but Tang Yundi was. However, when Tang Yundi was 7 years old, he died in the west because of a battle in Ugly. Tang Guosheng and Zhou Zicheng hugged each other and cried bitterly. Finally, their emotions slowly stabilized. When Tang Guosheng helped Zhou Zicheng up and saw the bloodstain on the corner of his mouth, his expression greatly changed. He turned to look at Tang Yunpeng at the side and shouted, What are you waiting for? Go and call the doctors. Call all the doctors here. Zhou Zicheng shook his head and stopped Tang Yunpeng. A bright smile appeared on his old face as he said, Old leader, please don't tire this child and don't bother the doctors. My own situation is as clear as a mirror in my heart. I'm already very satisfied to be able to return to the imperial capital and see you. Tang Yunpeng's pupils shrunk and he hurriedly said, You? How did you? My heart and lungs were injured by that animal. Coupled with my old injuries, even a perfected golden immortal can't save me now, said Zhou Zicheng with a smile. It's all because of this child that I can persist until now and come to you. Nyonyo, call me Grandpa Tang. Grandpa Tang, the little girl called out. Tang Guosheng heavily nodded and asked, Zicheng, this child is... Do you still remember Yundi's playmate, Little Ing? said Zhu Zicheng. She's little Ying's granddaughter. Her parents died when she was more than 2 years old, and I've been raising her until now. Old leader, I'm going to die soon, but I really can't stop worrying about this child. Can you take her in and raise her? Tang Guosheng remembered the delicate and pretty face. It was the face of his son's playmate, little Ying. How many years had it been? He didn't expect that he would see her descendant today. However, looking at Zhu Zicheng's somewhat pleading eyes, he shook his head and shouted, I can raise this child, but I won't allow you to die. That's right, Xiao. Xiao, aren't you called a divine doctor? Save him, I want him alive. Tan Xiao sighed inwardly as he shook his head and said, Grandpa's was 5 internal organs have deteriorated and nearly half of his blood has been lost. The vitality in his body is almost cut off and the death qi has replaced it. Even if I have a miraculous elixir, I'm powerless to save him. To be honest, the reason why the old man can hold on until now should be because he used some forbidden technique. Tang Guosheng's body shook. His eyes fell on Zhu Zicheng's face as he hurriedly asked, You used the rejuvenation technique? Do you know that once you use that power, you won't be able to live? Zhu Zicheng said with a smile, If I didn't use it, I'm afraid I would have died long ago. Old leader, this is my fate, so don't be sad. It's worth it to be able to give this child to you and see you again. While speaking, blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth again. Tan Xiao was perfectly aware that if this old man hadn't seen his grandpa, Tang Guosheng, he would have been able to live for more than 10 days. But his current mood was really unstable and he simply couldn't hold on. Suddenly, Qin Changyue heard the noise outside and came out of the house. When she learned that the old man was Zhu Zicheng, she hugged her head and cried bitterly. In Qin Changyue's heart, Zhu Zicheng was 6 or 7 years younger than them. He had been with them since he was 10 years old. He was like her family member, her younger brother. Now that she knew Zhu Zicheng's situation, especially knowing that he had been in ugly for so many years, she felt as if her heart was being cut by a knife. Finally, the elders gradually stabilized their emotions under the comfort of Tang Yunpeng and Tang Yunqing. Zhu Zicheng had tears in his eyes, but a smile hung on his face. After releasing Tang Guosheng and Qin Changyue's hands, he stepped back a few steps and said, Please allow me to call you big brother and sister-in-law. Big brother, sister-in-law, Zicheng has no regrets to see you again. I'm leaving. I want to stay in ugly. Don't stop me and don't send me off. If we meet again, I hope it'll be in the next life. After saying that, he staggered toward the outside step by step. Tang Guosheng chased him a few steps and shouted, Zicheng. Zhu Zicheng didn't look back nor did he stop. He just walked away step by step. He didn't even eat or drink any food or drink. Tears gushed out of Tang Guosheng and Qin Changyue's eyes again. They wanted to stop Zhu Zicheng, but they could feel his determination. Tan Xiao said, Grandma, don't be anxious. I'll send someone to protect the old man in secret all the way back to Ugly. When the old man returns there, I'll also send someone to help him in secret so that he can leave peacefully in his last days. Chapter 1021. At the birthday banquet. The banquet was held in the courtyard without any extravagance, yet the food was delicious. There was also the god's nectar brewed by the magnificent Tang Corporation, which made everyone feel full and happy. However, Tang Guosheng's mood was particularly heavy. Although he was able to see his old brother again, knowing about his situation made him feel particularly uncomfortable. However, just as the birthday banquet was about to come to an end, Tan Xiao suddenly received a call. The sudden call made Tan Xiao's expression greatly change. There's something I want to tell you, Grandpa. Tan Xiao quickly came to Tang Guosheng's side and spoke in a low voice. Upon seeing Tan Xiao's solemn expression, Tang Guosheng immediately furrowed his brows and asked, What is it? There's an urgent matter that requires me to leave the imperial capital immediately, said Tan Xiao. What is it? Asked Tang Guosheng. A terrifying fierce beast has appeared in the Himalayas, said Tan Xiao in a low voice. Tens of thousands of residents living in a small town called Ugly, which is very close to the mountain range, have been attacked by that fierce beast. According to what Duanmu Lin just said on the phone, many of the residents were killed. The town has now turned into ruins. Tang Guosheng abruptly got up. As everyone's gaze fell on him, he lowered his voice and said, "Hurry up and kill that fierce beast as fast as possible. Do remember to ensure your own safety. The world is big, but your safety is the most important." "I will," replied Tan Xiu with a solemn expression. Tang Guosheng suddenly grabbed Tan Xiu's arm and hurriedly said, "Protect Zicheng, Xiu. He followed me through fire and water and saved my life countless times. I would have died countless times if it wasn't for him. Therefore, no matter what price we have to pay, we must ensure his safety. Let him die a natural death." "I will." Tan Xiu nodded. Quickly, Tan Xiu then contacted the Tang sect disciple he sent out. Since the Tang family needed real experts to protect it, Tan Xiu sent back more than a dozen disciples who were originally guarding the Tang family after the establishment of the Tang sect. The mission that he had given them was one of them. "Stop him. Wait for me." Tan Xiu hung up the phone and hurried over with Tang 28's group of 5. When he saw Zhu Zicheng at the train station, he saw the puzzled expression on his face and forced a smile. "Grandpa Zhu, it wasn't my grandpa who sent me here. Instead, I received a notification that a terrifying beast has appeared in Ugly, causing the deaths of many civilians. I rushed over with my duty to destroy that vicious beast. It just so happens that you are going back as well, so we can take care of each other on the way back." Zhu Zicheng revealed a bitter expression and sighed. "Looks like that fierce beast still killed its way out. I've already told the others to move out as soon as possible. I've also reported this to the local government. It's a pity that no one listens to this old man's words, and no one believes them." Tan Xiu's expression changed and he hurriedly asked, "You knew about the existence of that ominous beast before? Your injuries were caused by that vicious beast?" "It's far more than that. That place, it's simply a nest of fierce beasts." Zhu Zicheng sighed. "That fierce beast is very powerful. I would have died if it were me. The one that injured me was a beast that wasn't too strong. Fortunately, I escaped fast enough, so I managed to escape." "Grandpa Zhu, please tell me about the situation over there," said Tan Xiu hurriedly. "Ugly is located near the Himalayas." Zhu Zicheng nodded and said, "I've entered the Himalayas countless times in order to pick the old snow lotus. The last time I went there, I found the nest of fierce beasts because I went very far. The largest fierce beast there is as tall as a 2-story building. It's simply like a big monster. There are also countless fierce beasts there. Although they are not that big, they are still very terrifying. I was injured by a fierce beast that found me in the periphery." Tan Xiu nodded and asked, "Since there are so many fierce beasts there, why haven't they come out before? How did they come out now?" "I don't know the specific reason." Zhu Zicheng sighed. "But I'm sure that those fierce beasts seemed to be blocked by something before and couldn't come out. Even the fierce beast that chased me was blocked by a layer of invisible airflow. However, those fierce beasts kept hitting the barrier that I couldn't see. I think they must have rushed out." "An array formation?" Tan Xiu was startled and quickly said, "The situation is urgent, Grandpa Zhu. We can't take the train anymore. I just contacted the airline company on the way here. Let's fly there and then change to a car. Someone will pick us up along the way." Zhu Zicheng obviously also wanted to know the current situation of Ugly, so he nodded and said, "I'll listen to you." For the whole day, Tang Xiu and the rest hurried with all their might and even used the military helicopters of the local garrison to send them off. Finally, at noon the next day, they arrived at the snow-covered town near the Himalayas, Ugly. Heavens! How did this place become like this? Zhu Zicheng's old face was filled with disbelief after seeing the situation in Ugly. Ugly town had turned into ruins. All the soldiers and civilians who survived the savage beast's rampage had also been evacuated. This place was also sealed off by the garrison. Tan Xiu. 2 figures flashed from the distance and quickly appeared in front of Tan Xiu. Zhu Long and Aquababe's expressions were particularly solemn. Their bodies were covered with wounds and blood stains that dyed their clothes red. "What's the situation here?" asked Tan Xiu hurriedly. "Did you fight those fierce beasts?" "Tragic, very tragic," said Zhu Long bitterly. According to the current casualty statistics, more than 1,000 people have died in this disaster and thousands are injured. Further, we did fight those fierce beasts, but the situation is not optimistic. 4 of our colleagues from the Special Abilities Bureau have died in battle and dozens of others are injured. Have you counted the number of fierce beasts? Asked Tan Xiu. How many fierce beasts are there in total? It's impossible, said Zhu Long. The number of fierce beasts that have appeared is more than 1,000. There's also a particularly terrifying one among them. Further, there are some fierce beasts that haven't appeared for the first time yet. It's really hard to count how many there are. What about Senior Duanmu? Tan Xiu nodded. He has led a large team into the Himalayas and set up a blockade line inside, said Zhu Long. Come with us. I'll take you there. Zhu Long, help Grandpa's was settle down first, said Tan Xiu. He's a local and also a member of my Tang family. He's like a brother to my grandpa. Zhuo Zicheng felt warm inside after hearing Tan Xiu's words. He waved and said, Don't worry about me. Just do what you need to do. You must protect the safety of the people and pay attention to your own safety. Tan Xiu hesitated for a moment before he nodded and said, Please pay attention to your safety, Grandpa Zhuo. Let these 5 children stay here, Tan Xiu, said Zhu Long quickly. It's not safe inside. We don't have any extra power to protect them if we fight those fierce beasts again. They don't need protection. Tan Xiu shook his head. Let's go. Zhu Long immediately looked a bit helpless after hearing it. He really couldn't figure out why Tan Xiu wanted to take 5 children inside. Judging from their appearance, they were probably less than 10 years old. Half an hour later, everyone crossed over a snow-capped mountain and entered the depths of the mountain range. Soon after, a military tent appeared in Tan Xiu's sight. Moreover, hundreds of ability users from the Special Abilities Bureau, as well as a large number of soldiers in camouflage uniforms, had set up a blockade line inside the military tent. You're finally here, Tan Xiu. Duanmu Lin wasn't inside the tent but was waiting outside for Tan Xiu's arrival. I just arrived, Senior Duanmu, said Tan Xiu. What's the situation now, Senior Duanmu? Do those fierce beasts intend to rush into the blockade line again? They're very strange. Duanmu Lin nodded. They're like an army of fierce beasts, with a higher intelligence commanding them. We've seen a total of 4 small-scale fierce beast attacks since we arrived here. Fortunately, some cultivators came to help, else our Special Abilities Bureau and the military wouldn't have been able to resist them. Low-level and mid-level fierce beasts don't have high intelligence, said Tan Xiu. But the intelligence of high-level fierce beasts is comparable to that of humans. Above high-level fierce beasts are super fierce beasts and demonic beasts. Whether they are super fierce beasts or demonic beasts, they have extremely high intelligence. They have the ability to control the fierce beast army. Duanmu Lin's pupils shrunk and he said in amazement, high-level fierce beasts are already very terrifying. It'll be a big problem if there are super fierce beasts and demonic beasts. I don't think it's possible that there are super fierce beasts and demonic beasts, said Tan Xiu. The biggest fierce beast should be a high-level fierce beast. However, it's just my guess now. I need to see it to know for sure. That's right, you said some cultivators are coming. Who are they? There are people from the occult sect, Taoist cultivators, and Buddhist cultivators. There are also some experts from ancient martial families. As a matter of fact, our country has long signed some secret agreements with these people. When our country encounters a major crisis, we have the right to ask them for help. Tan Xiu nodded and said, Those who have justice in their hearts will care about our country. They will come forward bravely when we encounter a crisis. Tan Xiu. Suddenly, a shout came from the distance. Tan Xiu looked over and saw Miao Wentong, Xiao Mingjin, and Dao Master Zi dashing over lightning fast and quickly arrived in front of him. However, he found that all 3 of them were unexpectedly injured, especially Dao Master Zi. His injuries were quite serious. Take the medicinal pills. Tan Xiu took out 3 holy healing pills from his interspatial ring and gave them to each of them. Chapter 1022. Miao Wentong and Xiao Mingjun trusted Tan Xiu very much, so they gave Tan Xiu a grateful look and took the pill without hesitation. Dao Master Z hesitated for a while. Only after seeing that Miao Wentong and Xiao Mingjun had taken the pill did he take it. Quickly, the trio's injuries healed and their mental state was much stronger than before. "What's the situation with the fierce beasts inside now?" asked Tan Xiu. "Are they a big threat to the blockade?" Miao Wentong forced a wry smile and said, "I don't know why all the fierce beasts didn't rush out. But I'm sure that if all the fierce beasts rush out, let alone us, even if our numbers increase tenfold, I'm afraid it'll be far from enough." Tan Xiu took a deep breath and his killing intent toward the Celestial Wizard clan intensified. If it weren't for the Celestial Wizard clan spreading the news, causing the cultivation forces all over the world to focus their attention on the Pacific Ocean, he wouldn't have been so passive. Mobilizing a large number of Tang Sect's subordinates at this time could, on the one hand, play the role of training the troops, and on the other hand, protect the people of China. "I must get rid of this clan in the future," Tan Xiu secretly vowed inwardly. He then looked at Duanmu Lin and said, "Let's go now, Senior Duanmu. I need to observe and judge the strength of those fierce beasts. If they are really powerful, I'm afraid we'll have to use some special means." Duanmu Lin's expression shifted and he hurriedly asked, "What kind of special means?" Tan Xiu glanced at him and shook his head silently. He did have a very powerful trump card, but once he used it, it would cause serious consequences. Soon after, everyone appeared at the blockade line and looked at the lush mountain forest across the scene of white snow. Tan Xiu instantly released his spiritual sense and said in a deep voice, "All of you stay here. I'll go in and have a look alone." "Don't act rashly, Tan Xiu," said Duanmu Lin quickly. "I've sent some people to inquire about the news, but none of them came out. If my guess is correct, all of them died in the hands of the fierce beasts. It's impossible to kill me with just some fierce beasts." Tan Xiu shook his head. "Senior Duanmu, Tan Xiu, never do things that I'm not confident in. Don't worry." Saying, his figure instantly turned into a sharp arrow, rushing into the snow-covered mountains. After walking for less than 10 kilometers, Tan Xiu found a few rhino-like creatures in front of him chewing on 2 human corpses. Even the 2 corpses only had bloody legs and arms left. Roar! One of the rhinoceros-like creatures seemed to have discovered something. It turned around and roared in the direction of Tan Xiu. When Tan Xiu's gaze landed on the rhinoceros-like creatures, his pupils suddenly shrank. Disbelief filled his eyes because he discovered that the rhinoceros-like creatures were not ferocious beasts at all, but magical beasts. How is this possible? Demonic beasts live in the demon realm. Only powerful demonic beasts can tear space and come out of the demon realm. Otherwise, even if the powerhouses of the demon realm bring them out, they will become weak and die gradually. These demonic beasts are very weak, but how can they survive on Earth unscathed? Tan Xiu was deeply puzzled, but he felt even more restless inside. It must be noted that fierce beasts and demonic beasts were not on the same level at all. Even if 3 to 5 fierce beasts of the same level joined hands, they might not necessarily be a match for one demonic beast. Several ferocious rhinoceros-like demonic beasts strode toward Tan Xiu. Faint black smoke lingered under their feet, and the rhinoceros horns on their heads also faintly surged with a black brilliance. A cold light burst out of Tan Xiu's eyes. As he instantly unleashed the divine sword, layers of overlapping sword shadows were like a meat grinder, easily tearing the outer scales of the demonic beasts and tearing bloody wounds on their bodies. Then, the demonic beasts were crushed into pieces of flesh and scattered on the ground. The strength of each demonic beast should be comparable to a Qi refinement stage cultivator. If all the demonic beasts are this strong, then it can be solved. But if there are a large number of demonic beasts comparable to a foundation establishment stage cultivator, or a large number of demonic beasts comparable to a golden core stage cultivator, then things will be troublesome. Tan Xiu raised his left hand. After pondering for a moment, he reluctantly put it down. He had a few trump cards. Apart from Gu Yan and Ji Qimei, there was only the Star Devourer insect in his left hand. However, The star devourer insect had been in a deep sleep ever since he took it out of the 3-star vestige. It was easy to wake it up, but it was a big problem to make it act. It didn't know how to avoid the heavenly Tao laws here. Once it used its power, it was likely to be discovered by the heavenly Tao laws. Once that happened, it would bring great harm to it. Roar! The roars of demonic beasts came from the depths of the mountain range. On the snow-covered mountain, black shadows flashed like the wind and lightning. There were even dozens of winged bird-type demonic beasts that directly flew over. Although they flew at a very low altitude, their speed was still much faster than the other running demonic beasts. Tan Xiu put away the divine sword and retreated without hesitation. His speed was faster than the dozens of bird-type fierce beasts. He quickly escaped from their sight and returned to the human blockade line. Tan Xiu, Duanmu Lin and the others strode over to greet him. The worry on their faces gradually faded away. Tan Xiu forced a smile and said, "We're in trouble. The creatures in this mountain range aren't fierce beasts at all." Duanmu Lin's expression changed and he hurriedly asked, "If they're not fierce beasts, how can they have such powerful strength and speed?" Tan Xiu, you're very knowledgeable. If they're not fierce beasts, then what kind of monsters are they? Demonic beasts are creatures that should exist in another space, answered Tan Xiu. I don't know why they appeared on Earth. Duanmu Lin and the others exchanged dismayed glances and stared blankly for a while before asking with a worried face, "Are those demonic beasts very strong? They're even stronger than fierce beasts?" They're very strong. Tan Xiu nodded. It takes several fierce beasts of the same level to be on par with a demonic beast. Furthermore, I found that these demonic beasts are very strong. Some of them are comparable to qi condensation cultivators. I just killed them, but their roars also attracted hundreds of fierce beasts deeper in. Through my observation, I noticed that there are at least a few amongst those 100+ ferocious beasts that possess strengths that ought to be comparable to Foundation Establishment realm cultivators. Hiss! Miao Wenong, Xiaomingzhen and Dao Master Z, the 3 cultivators, immediately sucked in a mouthful of cold air. Their eyes were filled with horror, and they felt their scalps go numb. You should know. Dao Master Z's strength was only at the middle stage of Foundation Establishment stage, and this was the result of him cultivating for many years. Moreover, he had obtained some medicinal pills from Tan Xiu. As for Miao Wenong and Xiaomingzhen, although they already had the strength of the late stage of Foundation Establishment stage, a fierce tiger was no match for a pack of wolves. Just those hundreds of magical beasts were not something that the few of them could handle. Moreover, there were tens of thousands of magical beasts in this mountain range. Once they formed a beast tide, the blockade that they had set up would definitely collapse easily. If that really happened and they rushed into human society, it would simply be a living hell. Miao Wentong's voice trembled as he looked at Tan Xiu and asked, "Do you have any countermeasures? As martial cultivators, we can be considered true experts among the human race. If we can't stop those demonic beasts, the commoners will suffer. Even the disaster they will bring will be unimaginably serious and horrifying." Tan Xiu suddenly turned to look at Duanmu Lin and said in a deep voice, "Senior Duanmu, I need your help. I need the country's help." "What kind of help do you need?" asked Duanmu Lin immediately. "As long as you can deal with those demonic beasts, I'll communicate with my superiors and try my best to satisfy you. My people are in the Pacific Ocean and have conflicts with cultivators from all over the world," said Tan Xiu. The specific reason is that the patriarch of the Celestial Wizard clan deliberately spread the news that there are treasures useful to cultivators in the Pacific Ocean. As a matter of fact, there's an island in the Pacific Ocean where my sect is located. I need the country's cooperation to cover up this situation. "Tell me the specifics," said Duanmu Lin. "I need all the cultivators in my sect to form a blockade here to guard against those demonic beasts as much as possible," said Tan Xiu. "That's why I need the country to say that there's an island in the Pacific Ocean where our Special Abilities Bureau is stationed. Due to the conflict with the cultivators of the Celestial Wizard clan, the Celestial Wizard clan deliberately spread the rumor in an attempt to destroy our branch with the help of other forces." I'll agree to your request during this time of crisis. Duanmu Lin nodded and said, I'm sure they will also agree to it. I need to rush there at once to solve the trouble there as soon as possible, said Tan Xiao. Also, I must make sure that it's as a deterrent as possible when necessary. What do you need us to do in terms of military force? Asked Duanmu Lin in a deep voice. I hope you can send some fighter jets to send me there, said Tan Xiao after thinking for a while. It's a better way to announce to the public that the island is a secret branch of our country. Due to the news being leaked, we need to withdraw our members there and abandon the branch. Duanmu Lin frowned and forced a smile. I'm afraid it's a bit troublesome. I need to negotiate with the neighboring countries. But I give you my word. Tan Xiao nodded and shifted his gaze back to the depths of the Himalayas. Then, he said in a deep voice, it's very dangerous for you to stay here while I'm away. I hope you can hold on. Contact me at once there's a situation here. I'll send a large number of experts back in 2 days at most. Chapter 1023. In the evening, 3 fighter jets roared as they flew over the Pacific Ocean, passing through the thick clouds and soon arrived at the coordinates given by Tan Xiao, the 9th deserted island. At this time, dozens of large ships of all kinds and hundreds of cultivators on the Pacific Ocean raised their heads and swept their eyes over the 3 fighter jets. All of them revealed curious expressions because the symbol on the fighter jet indicated that it was China's fighter jet. However, China was very far away from here. Why didn't other countries stop their fighter jets midway? Also, why did these fighter jets come here? Beep, beep, beep. It didn't take long before the leaders of the various countries' cultivation forces received almost the same message. The treasure in the Pacific Ocean was purely fictitious. After the Celestial Wizard clan and the members of China's Special Abilities Bureau fought and were seriously injured, they spread the news of the treasure and attempted to use the world's major cultivation forces to attack a branch of China's Special Abilities Bureau in the Pacific Ocean. Were they used? The news of the treasure was false? Celestial Wizard Clan? China's Special Abilities Bureau? At this moment, the leaders of the world's forces were furious. They used various information channels to inquire about the authenticity of the news. However, to their disbelief, they basically believed the news after they found out that someone offered a huge bounty on the Celestial Wizard Clan and that their clansmen had appeared in the Pacific Ocean. Treasure. If there really was a treasure in the Pacific Ocean, why did the Celestial Wizard Clan, who came to the Pacific Ocean earlier than them, act like a coward? Why did they summon all their clansmen back to their clan's land and not come out? Didn't they covet the treasure? Soon after, another piece of news also reached the ears of the leaders of the world's forces. China's government sought China's cultivation forces to assist the Special Abilities Bureau's secret branch in the Pacific Ocean to evacuate. Cultivators. Such people were like a mountain that weighed heavily on the hearts of the leaders of the world's forces. The crusades of the past, the invasion of Huaxia by cultivation powers, the slaughter of Huaxia by groups of devils. Countless major events had ended in defeat by the cultivators of Huaxia in the end, and it caused them to reveal deep fear. 9th deserted island. When Tan Xiao jumped out of the cockpit of the fighter jet, 2 luxury liners were sailing slowly on the nearby sea. On the deck of one of the luxury liners, a middle-aged man of pyramid was sitting on a deck chair, comfortably enjoying the massage of 2 blonde beauties. He was leisurely holding a glass of red wine that was as red as blood. What's the situation? All of a sudden, he sat up straight, raised his hand, and gestured for the 2 blonde beauties to go away. His eyes looked at the 3 fighter jets in the sky. What was hard for him to believe was that his eyes that were as sharp as an eagle's eyes actually saw someone jump down from the close to a kilometer-tall combat cabin door. Someone committed suicide? Beside the middle-aged man, a skinny young man with a scar on his face suddenly narrowed his eyes and said in a deep voice. The middle-aged man didn't say anything. After standing up from the recliner, he put his hands behind his back and looked up at the figure in the sky. His thoughts were the same as those of his trusted subordinates, thinking that the other party wanted to commit suicide. After all, jumping down from a height of nearly 1,000 meters, even if it was seawater below, one would still be smashed to pieces. How is this possible? The middle-aged man's expression suddenly changed, and disbelief filled his eyes. This was because he clearly saw that the figure that jumped down from a height of nearly 1,000 meters had initially dived head first. When he was about 200 to 300 meters away from the sea, he actually stopped in midair. As he stepped down, he actually stood there in the air. The skinny young man was aghast and involuntarily exclaimed, "Heavens! How did he do it? How strong does he have to be able to do this?" At this moment, the middle-aged man had clearly seen Tan Xiu's face. After a moment of silence, his eyes suddenly looked at the looming island not far away. Then, he said in a deep voice, "Change the course and sail to that island." Standing in the air, Tan Xiu originally planned to directly enter the 9th deserted island, but the appearance of the two liners made him change his mind. Shortly after, he found that the two liners were actually rushing to the deserted island, and his face suddenly turned a bit cold. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Figures flickered lightning fast from the 9th deserted island. Mo Au and 5 experts of the Tang sect were treading on the sea surface as though they were walking on flat ground. At this moment, they also noticed Tan Xiu. Halt! Tan Xiu descended to the sea surface and blocked the path of the two luxury liners. At this moment, Mo Au's group of 6 also arrived and respectfully stood behind him. On the liner, Pyramid's top executive, Morvelin, stood on the bow deck. After signaling the liner to stop, he stared at Tan Xiu and asked in a deep voice, "Are you Chinese people?" "That's right. We're indeed Chinese," said Tan Xiu indifferently. "Who are you? Why did you come here?" "I'm Morvelin of Pyramid," said Morvelin. "This is the international waters, so why can't we come here? But I find it strange. Since when did your country become so capable that you can even let your country's fighter jets fly over the Pacific Ocean?" "It's none of your business," said Tan Xiu in a deep voice. "I can tell you that this island in front is a secret branch of our country's Special Abilities Bureau. We're preparing to evacuate due to our feud with the Celestial Wizard clan. Please leave if you don't have anything else to say." Morvelin squinted his eyes and lightly asked, "Else what? Do you want to fight us?" Tan Xiu sneered. "You think you can rely on yourself? It's not worth it for me to fight you. But don't blame us for being ruthless if you really don't listen to our advice and insist on coming to our secret branch. You got some guts, huh? You even dare to be an enemy of our pyramid," said Morvelin coldly. "Pyramid is indeed very strong. I know you're hailed as the world's largest organization, but I can tell you that even if your pyramid is very powerful, there's no way you can be compared with our entire country," said Tan Xiu indifferently. "I'm a Chinese cultivator. Otherwise, I wouldn't have rushed here to meet the people from the Special Abilities Bureau. If your pyramid wants to stand up for the Celestial Wizard clan, you can do it now." "Did you really have a conflict with the Celestial Wizard clan?" asked Morvelin curiously. "It's not just a simple conflict," said Tan Xiu in a deep voice. "Those people from the Celestial Wizard clan are damned. They tried to steal our core information and killed many of our people. After our troops arrived and killed most of them, they even deliberately spread the news that there are treasures in the Pacific Ocean. Their purpose is to make all the major cultivation forces in the world discover our branch. They have achieved their goal now, but they also formed a great enmity with our Special Abilities Bureau." Morvelin was silent for a moment and asked again, "Was it you who issued the sky-high bounty?" "Money has little meaning to us as cultivators." Tan Xiu sneered. "Our country is even more unwilling to kill our enemies, but cultivators like us will never allow our people to be killed and remain indifferent. That's why the Celestial Wizard clan deserves to die. I'll definitely wipe them out in the future and make them pay the most painful price." Morvelin gave him a thumbs up and praised, "Your tone is really big and you're very powerful, mister. Our pyramid doesn't want to be enemies with the Special Abilities Bureau of China or cultivators like you. On the contrary, the Celestial Wizard clan belongs to the Stygian Club and has a lot of enmity with my pyramid. There's an old saying in your country that the enemy of your enemy is your friend. Besides, we're not enemies, but we have a common enemy, so I really hope you can destroy the entire Celestial Wizard clan." Tan Xiu raised his brows and cupped his fists. Since you don't want to be enemies with our Chinese cultivators, then please leave. We'll settle this account with the Celestial Wizard clan sooner or later. I don't mind contacting you when the time comes to let you watch a good show. Of course, it'll be even better if you're willing to join forces with us. Shooting a deep look at Tan Xiao and Mo Ao's group of 6 behind Tan Xiao, Morvelin then turned to the lean youth next to him and said, "Turn around and leave this place." "Understood." The lean youth replied and immediately issued the order. Tan Xiao calmly watched the two liners leave until they disappeared from his sight. Then he turned to look at Mo Ao and said in a deep voice, "Notify all experts above Foundation establishment on the 9th Barren Island to return to 9 Dragons Island immediately. Remember to hide your tracks and directly kill any force you encounter on the way back." "Understood." Mo Ao didn't know what happened, but he still respectfully complied. Quickly, all the cultivators above Foundation establishment of the Tang sect quietly returned to 9 Dragons Island. As for the 9th Barren Island, which he originally regarded as a smokescreen, he directly gave it up. However, he didn't give up on sending people to monitor the surrounding islands. Anyone and ships approaching would be discovered in advance. At the palace square, with his hands behind his back, Tan Xiao looked at the nearly 200 experts above Foundation establishment in front of him and said in a deep voice, "China is now facing a huge crisis. A large number of demonic beasts have appeared in the depths of the Himalayas. These demonic beasts are much more terrifying than fierce beasts. A demonic beast of the same level can rival several fierce beasts. Therefore, you must return to China with me. While protecting the people of China, you must also go through life and death training and kill as many demonic beasts as possible." Gu Xiaoxue paced 2 steps forward, saluted and asked, "What should we do here, Grand Master?" "I can rest assured that Yen is here," said Tan Xiao in a deep voice. "Also, Xiaoxue, you and Tangan stay here. If anyone finds 9 Dragons Island, do your best to kill them. Of course, don't let them spread the existence of 9 Dragons Island." Chapter 1024. Tan Xiao arranged everything quickly. After briefly explaining the situation, he ordered the Tang sect's disciples to board the borrowed deep-sea corvette as fast as possible and arrived at a port in Jingmen Island in just 10 minutes. Dozens of buses had been waiting here for a long time and directly transported everyone to the Shanghai airport. Then, they were sent to the west by a plane that had been prepared in advance. However, aside from most of the Tang sect's powerhouses, Tan Xiao's disciple, Gu Yin, also came with them. Gu Yin was now a golden core stage powerhouse, but she had yet to engage in a real fight despite possessing formidable power. Tan Xiao didn't want her to be a flower in a greenhouse. If she wanted to be successful, she must experience fighting on the edge of life and death. Only then would she be able to achieve great things in the future. Ugly. The small town was in a mess and looked dilapidated. Olive green tents were connected together to serve as temporary residences. A large number of soldiers blocked all the traffic arteries in the surroundings, prohibiting any ordinary people from entering. So many reporters? As soon as Tan Xiao arrived, he saw the reporters carrying their cameras outside the blockade line and craning their necks to look inside the town. Honk, honk. The military SUVs blared their horns, forcing the reporters away. The soldiers driving the military SUVs showed their identification cards and the convoy quickly entered the town. Duanmu Lin and several experts from the Special Abilities Bureau had been waiting in front of the military tent for a long time. When he saw men and women with strong physiques and solemn expressions getting out of dozens of military SUVs, especially when they were all carrying military bags, he immediately revealed a surprised expression. Tan Xiao stepped forward and saluted, saying, "Senior Duanmu, I've brought most of the members of my sect here. There's a total of 201 of them. I hope you can assign them separate places to live. Also, you must give me full authority to command them." Duanmu Lin was silent for a moment and curiously asked, "Are they cultivators, Tan Xiao? Or are they soldiers? They have a very strong military aura and intense killing intent." "Senior Duanmu, I'll be frank with you," said Tan Xiao. "They're all cultivators trained by my disciple. Most of them were trained and sent abroad to train in very cruel environments when they were young. Most of them were wanted criminals in the world. But what I can guarantee is that the people they killed were all people who deserved to be killed, and they did not do anything illegal in our Huaxia country. Duanmu Lin slowly nodded and said, I can rest assured with your guarantee. I immediately sent someone to arrange a place for them to stay, and all the daily necessities were quickly distributed to them. However, I have one last question to ask. Please speak. Tan Xiu nodded. Duanmu Lin asked, I want to know their strength. Can they really guard our blockade line in the next mission? Tan Xiu shook his head and said, their mission is not to set up a blockade, but to enter the depths of the Himalayas to hunt demonic beasts. This is also the main reason why I asked for full authority over them. Don't worry, the weakest among them is a Foundation establishment expert, and many of them are Gold Core experts. As long as they don't encounter terrifying magical beasts, they have enough ability to protect themselves. Duanmu Lin's expression moved as he nodded and said, all right. Since you've decided, then I won't say anything more. Tan Xiu, 2 hours ago, another group of demonic beasts attacked the blockade line, killing more than a dozen of our people and injuring dozens of others. How many demonic beasts were there? Asked Tan Xiu. A total of 200. Duanmu Lin forced a smile. The most powerful one among them is very terrifying. Fortunately, Miao Weneng, Xiao Mingjin, and Dao Master Zi joined forces to barely repel that demonic beast. Tan Xiu's expression slightly changed. The three of them joined forces to barely repel that demonic beast, which showed that the strength of that demonic beast was at least comparable to a late-stage Foundation establishment cultivator. Such a small-scale harassment was unexpectedly led by such a powerful demonic beast. It seemed that there were many terrifying demonic beasts in the depths of the mountain range. Half an hour later, the temporary tent had been set up. Since it was a separate place, it was not in the same place as the others. Assemble. Following Tan Xiu's order, 201 Tang sect disciples quickly appeared in front of Tan Xiu and quickly lined up. Mo, Jin Shi, Yishir San, Hao Lei, said Tan Xiu in a deep voice. I now order the 4 of you to be the captains. Each of you will lead 40 disciples and obey my orders. The rest of you will follow me. We'll be divided into 5 teams. Our main purpose is to hunt demonic beasts and sharpen ourselves. Understood. The 4 people's expression immediately changed. Let's go. Tan Xiu said. Let's go inside and see the situation. The high-tech products you brought can also be used in the upcoming battle, especially the monitoring equipment. If used properly, it can allow us to understand the movements of the magical beasts in time, and also allow us to make a battle plan in time. Late at night, Tang Xiu and Yishir San were like 2 phantoms that silently sneaked into the depths of the Himalayas. After the 2 of them crossed 2 peaks, an invisible pressure suddenly made them feel that their shoulders had sunk. There's something wrong with the gravity here, Sect Master. Yishir San's expression turned particularly serious as he spoke in a low voice. I can feel it. The gravity here is at least 5 times that of the outside, Tan Xiu said. We'll be seriously affected if we fight the demonic beasts here. Yishir San, you retreat first. I'll sneak inside and see the situation. Remember, don't fight the demonic beasts if you find them. Kill them if you can, but evacuate immediately if you can't. I'd better go with you, Sect Master. Yishir San worriedly said, I can cover your retreat if you encounter any danger inside. No need. Tan Xiu shook his head. I'll wait for you outside then, said Yishir San helplessly. Hurry up and retreat if you encounter any danger. Tan Xiu no longer talked to Yishir San and watched him withdraw from the place where the gravity was wrong. Then he released his spiritual sense, took out an invisibility talisman, activated it, and quietly rushed inside. Along the way, he encountered more than a dozen waves of demonic beasts, some of which exuded a very powerful aura. According to Tan Xiu's calculations, they should have the strength of the Golden Core stage. Where's that big guy? Tan Xiu took Yishir San to the depths of the mountain range for 2 purposes this time. The first was to install a monitoring device and find out the movements of the demonic beasts inside in time. The second was to find the 2-story-tall demonic beast and figure out its true strength. Shit! Tan Xiu's body suddenly tightened and he instantly retreated backward. In the blink of an eye, he had already retreated hundreds of meters away and fell into the snow pit. Roar! 2 lion-like demonic beasts appeared nearby, exuding a huge aura. Their eyes were full of confusion. After looking around, they looked at each other and shook their heads. Just now, they keenly felt a special aura fluctuation. But in an instant, that special aura fluctuation disappeared without a trace. Not even a ghost's shadow could be seen in the surroundings. Subsequently, they looked around again and did not find any other special circumstances. They gradually walked into the distance and soon disappeared in this area. Tan Xiu in the snow pit had already restrained his aura. The 2 lion-like demonic beasts just now brought him a strong threat. Through their aura, Tan Xiu could judge their strength. Each of them was comparable to the late Golden Core stage. If they joined forces, even a nascent Soul Stage powerhouse might fall in their hands. They are very intelligent and alert. Tan Xiu narrowed his eyes. As time passed, 20 minutes passed in a blink of an eye. However, he did not move. He still maintained that posture, controlled the aura around his body, and waited quietly. Roar! 4 lightning-like black shadows shot from a distance. 2 of them were the lion-like demonic beasts that arrived 20 minutes ago. The other 2 looked very strange. They were simply the legendary 4 odd beasts with countless sharp spikes on their backs. Hedgehog? Using his divine sense, Tan Xiu had already clearly seen the appearance of the 2 demonic beasts. His heart sank slightly because he knew what kind of existence a hedgehog was. Hedgehogs liked to attach themselves to powerful demonic beasts. They were very intelligent, like a cunning fox. They had always been giving advice to higher-level demonic beasts. In addition, hedgehogs also had an important talent, which was the ability to smell unusual odors. As long as there was life nearby, and it was not a demonic beast, they would be able to smell and determine the location of the enemy. Seal the heavens and earth. Tan Xiu quickly took out 2 array plates. After silently engraving the array runes, he immediately used the 2 array plates to set up a small array around the area. Half an hour later, the 4 demonic beasts searched for a while and still did not find anything unusual. Then they slowly left. It was not until they disappeared that Tan Xiu carefully came out of the snow pit. Under the effect of the invisibility talisman, he quietly left. Chirp, chirp. Just as Tan Xiu came out of the gravitational space and felt his body lighten, he suddenly received this voice in his sea of knowledge. Soon, normal human language also appeared in his sea of knowledge. It's a very powerful demonic beast. It won't be easy to deal with it without unlocking the seal. Were you now master? Given your cultivation level, you'll only die if you want to go against that demonic beast. Tan Xiu's expression shifted. After transmitting his thought, he was pleasantly surprised. You sensed it, Star Devourer insect? That's right. I sensed it, and it seems to have sensed me, said Star Devourer insect. Let's get out of here quickly. Don't worry. Can you sense the situation here? Asked Tan Xiu. How can demonic beasts appear on Earth? Chapter 1025. In the end, Tan Xiu was disappointed because Star Devourer insect didn't know why there were demonic beasts in this place. It didn't even have much knowledge about demonic beasts. It only knew some sporadic information about demonic beasts based on the records it had read about them. Star Devourer insect, you won't fall into a deep slumber again, right? Tan Xiu couldn't figure out the insect's state at the moment, so he asked with a thought. This world has a strong suppression on me, said Star Devourer insect. It'll be very dangerous if I use all my power. I'm afraid I'll fall into a long slumber even if I can save my life. Tan Xiu nodded silently. He was well aware that Star Devourer insect was right. The heavenly Tao laws in this world were extremely powerful and would never tolerate the existence of powerhouses that could affect its operation. They would either be directly obliterated or expelled from this world. Even if he had some special means to protect Star Devourer insect, it was very likely that he would suffer heavy injuries and fall into a long slumber just like what it said. It depends on the situation. I'll need you to act if these demonic beasts bring too much harm. But don't worry. I'm sure I can save your life and make you fall into a deep slumber at most. Also, I'll take some time to refine some pills that will benefit you. Pills? The thought fluctuation transmitted by Star Devourer insect was a bit strange. That's right, Myriad Beast Pill, said Tan Xiao. It's a pill taken by immortal beasts in the immortal world. Although we're not in the immortal world now and can't find a real psychic immortal herb to refine an immortal Myriad Beast Pill, I can still refine a slightly lower grade Myriad Beast Pill. Even if you're not injured, it'll still be very beneficial to you. Star Devourer insect excitedly replied, I know this pill. It's called an immortal pill in the immortal world. That's great. I never thought I'd have the chance to take an immortal pill. Tan Xiao no longer talked with Star Devourer insect. Now that he learned that the insect had woken up from its slumber, he immediately launched his plan. Quickly, the 201 members of Tang sect at Foundation establishment stage and above were far from being able to gather. While looking at the 5 teams in front of him, Tan Xiao ordered in a deep voice, Mo, Jin Shi, Yishir San, Hao Lei, the 4 of you lead your teams and immediately enter the depths of the mountain range to hunt demonic beasts. Remember, hunting magical beasts is only second to you. Ensuring your own safety is the first. In addition, you have to come back here every evening. I will assign people to record the number of demonic beasts you have killed and reward you with cultivation resources. This is an opportunity for all of you. As long as you have an outstanding battle record, we will provide you with a large amount of resources. It will be extremely effective for you to hone your own strength. Yes. The 201 members of Tang sect immediately looked excited. It wasn't easy for them to obtain cultivation resources. As their cultivation level increased, the resources they needed also increased greatly. Other than spending money to buy things from the sect, there was only the allocation of resources every year. However, the amount of these resources was limited. It was enough for them to cultivate for now, but in the long run, it was far from enough. Therefore, now that he had a chance to sharpen himself and obtain a steady stream of cultivation resources, it was definitely a double benefit. Seize it. This was the warning everyone inwardly gave to themselves. Tan Xiao's eyes swept over everyone's faces. Seeing their firm expressions, he nodded with satisfaction and said, Well then, let's go. Let's go. Mo, Jin Shi, Yishir San, and Hao Lei led their team and turned into streaks of light as they darted toward the depths of the Himalayas. Tan Xiao didn't rush to move. His eyes glanced at the remaining 37 Tang sect disciples in front of him and finally stopped on Gu Yin for a moment. Then he lightly said, Gu Yin may be a golden core stage expert, but she has never experienced actual combat before, so I'm afraid her combat power is not as good as yours. So, I hope that when you fight, you can protect her safety. I'm sure she'll be able to kill a lot of demonic beasts in the later stages as long as she can adapt to the brutal killing. She'll be able to win more resources for our team. Understood. The other 36 Tang sect disciples immediately shifted their eyes to Gu Yin. They admired her very much. Although she was very young, her cultivation talent was too heaven-defying. She had unexpectedly broken through to the golden core stage in just a year and a half. And now, they were all experts at the foundation establishment stage. As their strength improved, they found that the higher their cultivation level was, the greater the gap between them. They could easily kill cultivators at the Qi refining stage, but golden core stage experts could also easily kill foundation establishment stage experts. Gu Yin was the only golden core stage expert in the team. If her combat power improved, the number of demonic beasts they could kill would greatly increase and they would get more cultivation resources. This was definitely a great thing for them. Let's go. Tan Xiao no longer stayed and his figure turned into a flash of lightning as he dashed toward the depths of the Himalayas. Despite the large number of demonic beasts inside, he wasn't afraid at all. The countless battles he had gone through in the past had long tempered his fighting spirit to 1,000 times over. A few minutes later, several figures silently appeared at the place where they left. Duanmu Lin, who wore a solemn expression, looked at the direction where Tan Xiu and the others disappeared with a complicated expression. Once upon a time, he was afraid of Tan Xiu's strength and the existence of the everlasting feast hall. He was afraid that Tan Xiu would have a disloyal heart, which would lead to a change in the power structure of the country. He was worried that the structure of the country would be broken again. However, after many encounters, he gradually found that his worries were unnecessary. With Tan Xiu's strength and the number of powerhouses under his control, he would have acted long ago if he really had a disloyal heart. Moreover, he could have easily taken control of the country. But he didn't. He even stepped forward bravely when the country needed him. Whether it was for the people or the development of the country, he played a huge role. Especially in the current crisis situation, it was difficult to guarantee that the country wouldn't fall into hell on earth unless a large number of troops were mobilized and powerful firearms were used. Loyal and courageous, a hot-blooded man. If our country can have a few more such heroic youths, I'm afraid our country's national strength can be greatly enhanced. Duanmu Lin sighed deeply with a praising expression. At the side, a middle-aged man in a black training suit with his hair combed into a bun wore a disdainful expression on his face. He said indifferently, "Director Duanmu, aren't you exaggerating? They can greatly enhance our country's national strength? I admit that they seem to have some strength, but recklessly rushing into the depths of the Himalayas is simply courting death. Such behavior is stupid." Another old man in a Chinese tunic suit and crutches also nodded and said, "We've all seen the strength of those demonic beasts. This old man thinks that he's very strong, but facing some powerful demonic beasts, I'm still a bit inferior. That Tan Xiu actually dared to bring people deep into the Himalayas. He's indeed reckless." It seems that the ancestors' words are right. Every profession has its own path of cultivation. He may have some talent in Chinese medicine, but facing this kind of war, he's simply worse than a rookie. Duanmu Lin slightly furrowed his brows and glanced at the middle-aged man and the old man. Both of them had extraordinary backgrounds. The middle-aged man was called Hun Sen, a cultivator from a reclusive clan. This clan was very powerful with thousands of clansmen. Each of them was a cultivator, and their overall force was extremely powerful. The old man, Jiang Shuixing, was a cultivator who had broken through to the golden core stage. He had more than a dozen disciples under him. The weakest among them was at the qi refining stage, but most of them were experts at the foundation establishment stage. These two, it had taken him a lot of effort, and he had almost worn out his lips trying to persuade them to come over. The people they brought had already fought with the demonic beasts several times and suffered some casualties. Duanmu Lin's eyes shifted back to the depths of the mountain range and meaningfully said, "I may not know the others, but I know him a bit. He is always able to surprise me, and he is always able to burst forth with astonishing potential. I think he won't let me down this time." Hun Sen and Jiang Shuixing exchanged glances with disdain on their faces at the same time. A strange smile suddenly appeared on Hun Sen's face as he looked at Duanmu Lin and said, "Director Duanmu, since you value that brat so much, I'd like to see his means. How about we follow them and have a look? If they are in danger, we can still lend them a hand." "Well, Director Duanmu, I also want to see the strength of him and his men." Jiang Shuixing nodded. "Director Duanmu, the demonic beasts on the eastern front have just been repelled, so I'm afraid they won't attack our blockade line in the next few hours. How about we follow them and have a look?" Duanmu Lin hesitated for a moment before he shook his head and said, "I need to stay and preside over the overall situation, so I can't leave without permission. If the two of you want to take a look, then follow me." Hun Sen and Jiang Shuixing nodded at the same time. In a flash, the two of them turned into two afterimages and chased after Tan Xiu and the others. A smile appeared on the corner of Duanmu Lin's mouth. He couldn't quite grasp Tan Xiu's strength, but he was sure that he was very powerful. However, Hun Sen and Jiang Shuixing were too arrogant, so much so that it was a bit strenuous for him to dispatch them. If Tan Xiao could show them what strength was, it might change their attitude, and he would have a much easier time dispatching them. A figure flickered and quickly appeared in front of Duanmu Lin. It was Aquababe with a solemn face. She handed over a stack of photos and reported in a deep voice, "Director, the surveillance footage shows a large-scale gathering of demonic beasts in a valley 46 kilometers away from the central line. This is the image that was transmitted." Duanmu Lin's expression changed. He quickly looked at all the photos and asked in a deep voice, "How many of them are there? Are there any special demonic beasts?" Chapter 1026. A bitter expression appeared on Aquababe's face as she said in a low voice, "I'm afraid there are more than 1,000 demonic beasts gathered here. We haven't found any special demonic beasts, but some of them are probably very strong. According to the standard of demonic beasts we've set, they should have exceeded D-class." Duanmu Lin gasped and said in amazement, "If there really is such a huge number of demonic beasts and many of them are D-class, our blockade line won't be able to withstand it. They can easily tear us to pieces." The demonic beasts' grading was jointly formulated by Duanmu Lin and many cultivators after fighting them. From low to high, they were classified as F-class demonic beasts, E-class demonic beasts that could contend with Qi refining stage cultivators, D-class demonic beasts that could contend with foundation establishment stage cultivators, C-class demonic beasts that could contend with golden core stage cultivators, and B-class demonic beasts that could contend with nascent soul stage cultivators. A-class demonic beasts were comparable to spirit formation stage cultivators. Further up, there were even higher grades, namely S-class, SS-class, and SSS-class. So far, the strongest magical beast that had been discovered was the one that was as tall as a 2-story building. However, it was only evaluated to be a B rank. B-class demonic beasts were comparable to nascent soul stage cultivators. Just this terrifying demonic beast alone was enough to make Duanmu Lin and the cultivators of China feel a chill down their spines. However, even if they felt a chill down their spines, everyone's mind was as clear as a mirror. They must find a way to get rid of it, else the entire China would fall into a state of misery and suffering. "Aquababe, send the grade standard of our team's demonic beasts to Tan Xiao." Duanmu Lin gave the stack of photos back to Aquababe and seriously ordered. Aquababe nodded and quickly sent the information to Tan Xiao. Then she asked, "What should we do next, Chief? What should we do if there are thousands of demonic beasts gathered here, or if more of them attack our blockade line? We can't stop them by relying on the current armed forces of the blockade line." A chilling look flashed in Duanmu Lin's eyes as he asked, "Has General Wang Tao arrived?" Aquababe nodded and said, "They've arrived. They're deploying the military defense in the periphery." "Let's go see him," said Duanmu Lin. "We must set up the armed defense system in Ugly, and all the firearms must be ready. If it really comes to the last step and there's no other way, we can only use the powerful firearms." The Himalayas. Tan Xiao led the disciples of the sect and carefully observed the surrounding environment. In the snow-covered mountains, the cold wind howled. Even though they were all martial cultivators, they could still feel the bone-piercing chill. What surprised the 37 Tang sect disciples was that Tang 28's group of 5 was not any slower than them. 1 o'clock direction, estimated to be about 1,300 meters away. More than a dozen magical beasts have been spotted. In addition, there are no other magical beasts around those dozen or so magical beasts, but it is not ruled out that there are hidden magical beasts in my blind spots. Xue Sha, who was next to Tan Xiao, suddenly had a change in expression and quickly reported. Tan Xiao looked in the direction of 1 o'clock. His eyes instantly narrowed as he nodded and said, "Let's test our skills first since we only found a dozen demonic beasts. Gu Yin, you can use the immortal sword your senior sister gave you." "I'll definitely kill a lot of demonic beasts, Master," said Gu Yin respectfully. Tan Xiao let out a faint smile and said, "Keep in mind that killing demonic beasts is important, but your safety is more important. Where there's life, there's hope. You can kill a lot of demonic beasts in the future as long as you can ensure your own survival. Even enemies." Gu Yin had been with the original members of the Everlasting Feast Hall for a long time, so she naturally learned a lot about the missions they performed in the past. Influenced by their style, she gradually understood the cruelty of the world. She was very strong and even a bit stubborn. Having been tortured by illness, her nerves had long since been tempered to be extraordinarily tough. Therefore, she dared to kill as long as it was an enemy. Quickly, everyone quietly approached the demonic beasts. Just as they were about 200 meters away from them, more than a dozen demonic beasts finally noticed that someone was approaching. Almost without hesitation, they roared and pounced toward them. Kill! Tan Xiu didn't use his divine sword. Instead, he grabbed a 2-meter-long saber that exuded a dark and misty aura. This saber was obtained by Tan Xiu from the Diablo Precantator clan in the pocket world of Kunlun Mountain. He still had a lot of these weapons, more than tens of millions of them. The saber energy was like a rainbow. It split the sky and covered the earth. The two demonic beasts with spikes all over their bodies were instantly cleaved into two halves by the saber. The violent saber energy made the other demonic beasts look fearful and flee in all directions. At this moment, more than 40 Foundation establishment experts, including Tang 28, launched fierce attacks. Puff, a demonic beast that was evading the saber energy, was pierced by Gu Yin's sword. The immortal sword even tore its abdomen and scattered its internal organs on the ground due to the immense force. It's easy to kill them. Gu Yin didn't feel uncomfortable due to her first killing and instead looked a bit excited. She nodded with satisfaction as the immortal sword was pulled out of the demonic beast's body. Watch out! Shueisha, who had been following Gu Yin, noticed that the demonic beast that had its body torn apart wasn't dead yet. It even slashed its lightning-fast claws toward Gu Yin. He immediately slashed the immortal sword in his hand and directly cut off the two sharp claws in front of it. He then took the opportunity to chop off its head, thus solving Gu Yin's crisis. Huff! Gu Yin was scared by the sudden danger and her hands and feet turned cold. She never expected that the demonic beast she had injured would have such a tenacious vitality. Not only did it not die directly, but it also counterattacked her. She could feel that the Grim Reaper was just above her. She would have been either dead or crippled if Shueisha hadn't acted in time. Be careful! Shueisha sighed inwardly and kicked the demonic beast's body away. Gu Yin hurriedly nodded and gratefully looked at Shueisha. Thank you, Uncle Shueisha. I would have been killed by that demonic beast if you hadn't saved me in time. We're on the same side. Besides, you're Sovereign's disciple, said Shueisha. I'll protect your safety even if I have to risk my life. However, the situation on the battlefield is ever-changing. Sometimes, I'm afraid I won't be able to save you even if I find you in danger. Hence, you must pay attention to your own safety during the battle and never take it lightly. Gu Yin hurriedly nodded and her expression turned particularly solemn. After killing the two demonic beasts, Tan Xiu didn't continue to attack. This was the best opportunity for the Tang sect's disciples to hone their skills. He needed them to have rich combat experience so that they could survive better in the future. Suddenly, his expression slightly changed because Shueisha kicked the demonic beast's body near him. He found a black crystal on the wound of the demonic beast's body, which unexpectedly flowed out along with its internal organs and blood. What's this? Tan Xiu's thought moved and sucked the black crystal into his hand. Suddenly, his pupils shrunk and an incredulous look appeared on his face. A demon nucleus? Such a low-level demonic beast actually has a demon nucleus? It must be noted that he had been to the demon realm several times and carried out massacres there. The number of demonic beasts he killed was definitely in the millions, but demon nuclei could only be found in high-ranking demonic beasts. Even the weakest of those high-ranking demonic beasts had the strength of an immortal. Shortly after, Tan Xiu quickly dissected the bodies of several demonic beasts nearby and quickly found several demon nuclei. Holding these demon nuclei in his hand, Tan Xiu tried to absorb the demonic power essence inside. To his surprise, the demonic power essence inside the demon nuclei was exceptionally abundant. Even the demonic power contained in 10 demon stones was not as much as the demonic power contained in one demon nucleus. That's great. Tang Xiu's heart was filled with joy. He looked at the remaining 4 or 5 demonic beasts that were still struggling to resist. His figure flickered as his long saber turned into a blade light and directly killed all of them. Dissect the bodies and see if they have such demon nuclei in their bodies. Upon hearing this, several Tang sect's disciples immediately dissected the demonic beasts' bodies according to Tan Xiu's order and smoothly found a demon nucleus in their bodies. 13 demonic beasts, 13 demon nuclei. This shows that each demonic beast has a demon nucleus in its body. I'm rich. The number of demonic beasts in this mountain range is simply in the tens of thousands. If I can get all the demon nuclei in these demonic beasts' bodies, it'll be like getting a treasure. I won't be lacking in cultivation resources until I reach the immortal realm. Tan Xiu's eyes were particularly bright. After glancing at the demonic beast bodies, he took out the communicator given to him by Duanmu Lin, wrote a short message, and sent it to Mo, Jin Shi, Yi Shi-san, and Hao Lei respectively. There's a black rhombus-shaped demon nucleus in these demonic beast bodies. Dissect all the demonic beasts you killed and dig out their demon nuclei. He then dialed Duanmu Lin's communicator number. Hello, Tan Xiu. Duanmu Lin's voice came from the communicator. Senior Duanmu, can we discuss something? Asked Tan Xiu. What is it? Asked Duanmu Lin curiously. Sell all the demonic beast bodies you killed to me, said Tan Xiu. There's no problem with the price, but I need these demonic beasts' bodies to collect the materials from them for my cultivation in the future. You can collect useful materials from demonic beasts' bodies? Asked Duanmu Lin curiously. The materials from demonic beasts' bodies are useless to ordinary cultivators, but they're very useful to me, said Tan Xiu. My cultivation speed will be greatly accelerated if I can get a lot of demonic beasts' bodies. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.